Day 4 in London reverted to classical chess as we started the Grand Chess Tour Finals. Hikaru Nakamura took the bull by the horns, jumping straight into one of Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave's specialties. This seemed to backfire, as only a few moves after the opening was clear that black was her choice. After missing one precise move to put real pressure on his opponent, MVL was unable to find a good continuation, and the game was drawn. In the consolation match between Fabiano Caruana and Levon Aronian, the American found himself quickly in hot water. Through precise maneuvering and razor-sharp calculation, Caruana kept his position together and salvaged half a point. The last classical chess game in London starts now. Welcome to Day 5 of the London Chess Classic. We're here at the Royal Air Force Bomber Command Memorial, dedicated to the over 50,000 of these airmen that gave their lives in World War II. For our players, it's the last day of classical chess, and let's see what kind of risks they take over the board. For all the action, we go to our studio in St. Louis.
Thank you, Alejandro. I'm Jennifer Shahade, and I'm here with Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan for the final classical game of the year, at least at the elite level.
Certainly feels that way, doesn't it, Jenna? Pleasure as always to be with you. The classical chess have not seen any decisive games thus far in the Grand Chess Tour Finals. Jen, and this is it. This is our last day of classical chess.
Well, today could be the day.
Let's take a look at our results so far.
We've got 2 draws so far in the classical. That means that Hikaru Nakamura and Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave, our finals match, started with a draw, as did Levon Aronian's game against Fabiano Caruana, although in both games there seemed like there was lots of chances for the black side.
Indeed, and our current schedule with 2 days remaining.
Well, today, again, is the last classical game, and then we go to Rapid and Blitz Monday, starting at 2 p.m. London. That's 9 a.m. on the East Coast, 8 a.m. here in St. Louis, so be sure to block up some time in your calendar for that.
And the format for tomorrow.
Well, as we see today, we're wrapping up the classic, and each game is worth 6 points.
Right.
If we get to Rapid, and when we get to Rapid and Blitz, we're going to have 2 games of Rapid worth 4 points each, and 4 games of Blitz worth 2 points each. So mathematicians like Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave can really strategize here. If I lose, what do I need to do? If I win, how can I maybe avoid some risks and maximize my chances of taking home the title?
Exactly. 6 points up for grabs today.
But we've got Grandmaster Maurice Ashley to take us a trip down a memory lane of Grand Chess Tour 2018.
Well, indeed, 2018 is soon coming to a close, and it's a time for fun and presents and family, and also a time for reflection. How did the year go? Well, we will reflect on how the year has gone for the Grand Chess Tour and how our 4 competitors got here. First of all, let's start with Leuven in Belgium, where Wesley So won that tournament, staking his claim. But take a look at the 3 players, Levon, Maxime, and Hikaru, who finished in the top half of the competition. You want to be in that position throughout as you play, but famously, Fabiano Caruana finished in 9th place. Well, moving on to Paris, and it was Hikaru Nakamura surging to the top, showing his dominance, while again, Levon and Maxime finishing in the top half, and again, Fabiano finishing in 9th. That is not the way you want to get here. Well, how did he make a comeback? Well, let's first of all start with St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, where Hikaru basically staked his claim to London. He said, that's it. I'm probably not going to need the next event after dominating. Maxime also put himself in a fantastic position by coming in 2nd. And there you see Fabiano Caruana, who had a great event, finishing in 4th. Again, Levon, top half, always, never below it. And finally, the Sinquefield Cup, where a lot was decided. First of all, Fabi needed to win it all, and he tied for first with Levon. That cinched it for Levon. Maxime, of course, outside the top half, but barely so enough to get him in the position to be here in London. And Hikaru had a disastrous event and still qualified in that classical. And the final standings, we see Hikaru there despite the Sinquefield Cup disastrous result. Levon, of course, tying it with the Sinquefield Cup. That was able to show that he's just clearly ahead. Maxime also way ahead of the pack. And there's Fabi tied with Wesley So and having to win that tiebreak playoff against Wesley, and that's how he got to London. And so we are here now with 4 players, and we'll see just how they fare as this final classical matchups of the year for the elite level. And to give us some more thoughts on that, let's jump to London with Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez.
Thank you, Maurice. We are here indeed in the western side of London. And yesterday we had quite a jovial evening. We went out to a Sichuanese restaurant. We ferried about 15 people there, including some of the players, some chess journalists. We had excellent food. We had laughs. We had even a couple of drinks. But there was one person that was missing there from that group. Hikaru Nakamura knows that he has to be all business today as he is facing Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave with the black pieces. Loss today would be absolutely disastrous. Remember that tomorrow he plays against the #1 player in the world in blitz. Maxime said that Magnus is still a better player, but that's up to debate as it's MVL that's sitting at over 2950. And Hikaru Nakamura knows this is a crucial game. With the black pieces, he cannot lose against Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave, who will definitely be trying to apply pressure with the white pieces.
Thank you, Alejandro. And Jennifer, big prize money, lots of stocking stuffers for the winners.
That's right. This is what you want in your stocking. $200K in that final match, $120K for first, and $100,000 in the third place match. As well as was announced yesterday, a spot into the 2019 tour. Both players very likely to make it in some other way, but hey, why not just secure it, lock it up? And this is what Nakamura is fighting for. That's one reason why he did not go to that dinner. This is serious business. It's not just the money, it's also the title. And based on what you said yesterday, Yaz, I got to think that you're cheering Nakamura's serious attitude.
Yeah, conspicuously absent at a little partying. You can always party, like after the event is over. And yeah, I like his seriousness.
Well, yeah, the thing is, there's partying in person, but there's even like enjoying and partying online, as we were debating yesterday about these Twitch streams and all these other fun things that Naka does. So
exactly.
Really doing all of them in one tournament would be a little overwhelming, right?
I think even for Hikaru's multitasking abilities, that would be a little bit too much to ask.
And here we see Levon Aronian, charming as ever, talking to some journalists or students, but no doubt regaling them all with his legendary charms. And, Levon's just such a chill person.
Yes.
He's really happy to talk to anyone.
Yeah. One of the things I've always remarked about Levon, he's a great ambassador for not only chess, but Armenia. And wherever he goes, there seems to be an Armenian community, and they turn out en masse when he's in town.
Oh, yeah, he's got a lot of fans, Armenian and not.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to give a shout-out to the Russian show, Peter Stidler and Miro over in Studio B, talking about these games in Russian. And I did use my trusty Google Translate again for Peter's tweet promoting today's show, which always gives me some laughs. He says, 18 out of 18, there are only 2 left. Will any of the participants in the final be able to break the London curse? Me and Moro are ready to knuckle expecto Berlinum. So I can only imagine what Nocto Expecto Berlinum means in Russian.
No Berlin, please.
No Berlins,
Knuckle
please.
Expecto.
Not expecting.
We're not expecting any of those Berlins. As we see there, Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave walking in. And it looks like Fabi snuck in back there, I saw, as well, behind Malcolm Payne, the organizer in London. And the word London curse, it sounds a little bit unfair to London, given that, of course, here at the Sinquefield Cup, there were very few victories. I think it was 8 out of 45 games. I mean, that percentage is
37 draws.
Obviously a bit better than London, clearly better than London in the classical games anyway, as we've had just zero. 100% draws. But there's just few games, or a lot fewer games, so very small sample size. Not really fair to London, as now Levon is finished with all the fraternizing and picture taking, and it's time to get down to business. He is playing against Fabiano Caruana. We talked about that third place spot, very important, and also that extra 20 grand. You know, it's kind of funny that you could win $40,000 and seem like you failed. I mean, you come in last, and then you don't qualify for next year's title, next year's tour immediately. But it's going to be a little, negative feeling going on in the players if anybody who comes in fourth. You never want to lose the consolation game.
No, and especially at the very end of the year's end, the last competition, you really want to do very well. And there we see Malcolm Payne getting ready to introduce the players and the final day of classical
Also,
games. Guys, quick time for a poll. Are we going to break? The curse sounds strong.
Curse, please, that's too strong.
Are we going to break the streak?
The streak of draws that we're seeing.
Yeah, the streak of draws.
It's
been a while, gosh.
I'd say less than 50%. I mean, how can
Too
you
much
not?
risk.
How can you not?
Too much risk.
But it's always less than 50%.
Points.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, it's at this level, generally speaking.
Well, with two games.
Well, generally speaking, with chess, the fans should note that a lot of calculations have been done around chess. And you say, prevalence of draws. Well, if you go above the 2,700 level, then white generally wins about 35% of the time. Black wins about 25% of the time. And draws result 40% of the time. So as far as white's concerned, it's pretty healthy score, knowing that you generally will not lose in those matchups. It's because you only lose 25% of the time. So those who have white feel a bit more secure whenever they're sitting across the board. But black also knows they only lose 35% of the time.
But those stats that you mentioned have got to be for like 2,700 plus, 2,800 plus. The
right,
draw margin's
that's my
much
point.
higher.
Right. So
yeah.
If you start at the 2,700 level and you know that's the case, imagine the players now 2,750, 2,775, 2,800. Even more so, you feel like when I sit down at the board, especially as white, those guys are thinking it's going to be two times out of 10, maybe I'll lose the game. And if I don't even want to try, that's another point as well, because we're talking about games that these players are really going at it in a lot of those cases. But if I don't want to try, no. So we'll see. But we do have Malcolm Payne in London on stage right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Olympia Conference Centre here in London for Day 2 of the Grand Chess Tour 2018 Finals. I'm Malcolm Payne from the charity Chess in Schools and Communities, which delivers chess to over 25,000 children in state schools around the United Kingdom and organises the London Chess Classic. I'd particularly like to thank our sponsors, the Lahia Foundation, the new sponsor this year, DeepMind, who accommodated us for the semi-finals so wonderfully, and we really enjoyed being there, and of course the St. Louis Chess Club, without whom the Grand Chess Tour would probably never have got off the ground. So with the scores in the final matches at 3-3 after the first classical game, let's welcome the players onto the stage. Contesting the battle for third place with $100,000 at stake, would you please welcome Levon Aronian and Fabiano Caruana. And fighting it out for the title of Grand Chess Tour Champion 2018 with $200,000 at stake. Please welcome Hikaru Nakamura and Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave. And because the tournament is run by a Chess in Schools charity, as all of you watching here and on the internet will know, it's a tradition at the London Chess Classic that the ceremonial first move is made by one of the young people here at the London Chess Classic, either those who've come for the school's activities or playing in the tournament. And today I'm really pleased to welcome a young man who learnt chess through the charity at a school in the London borough of Newham, became an extremely strong player So good, in fact, that he's represented England at junior level, and he's playing in the tournament, the other tournaments that are taking place alongside the Grand Chess Tour here at Olympia. Please welcome Joshua John. So Joshua's going to make the first move for Maxime. Well, Joshua, we've seen quite a few of your games on ChessBase, so I know you play several different opening moves. Which one would you like to propose? 1d4. Maxime?
It's too much original for me.
Too original for you. Okay, well, we'll see what he comes up with. Joshua, thank you very much. And a round of applause for Joshua as he leaves the stage. And so I'll leave it to the arbiters to get the games underway. Thank you.
And thank you, Malcolm Payne, as we get ready to start
So far,
our final classical game. Yes, Jen.
So far, I think the kids are 1 out of 5 in classical chess and correctly predicting. So they're doing better than us, yeah.
Much better. E2, E4 by MVL to get the game underway, and E5. Not a Petrov, potentially Berlin, or Joko Piano. Bishop C4.
I think we're going to see that Berlin again.
Yeah.
Because Maxime did very well with that Berlin against Aronian.
In the rapid, he won a very, very nice game indeed.
So here we go. I don't think there's any reason at all for Hikaru to take a chance. He's got the black pieces. Just
MVL is one of the players who does go directly into the ending after D4.
Yeah.
A lot of players are now avoiding the ending with rook E1 and other moves, but MVL has been very consistent in going directly into this ending. And Jen, you were mentioning the other day that, well, you don't mind it.
No,
you just don't say you're unhappy when you see it too often.
Exactly.
But it's been a while. It's been a while.
Well, now we've seen it twice, so
yeah, but one was
too often again.
Yeah, maybe, but I do feel a little bit more, and it's also imbalanced. I mean, of course, it was very annoying, like when there were 3 games in a tournament round, and all of them were Berlins, but it is actually quite imbalanced. So it's not like it could be a lot worse.
It could be a lot worse.
Sorry.
Well, there's only 2 games.
I mean,
the other one is a Petrov, by the way, that's going on in the Consolation match, and look at how fast they are just. My goodness, they have to be aware that there is a 30-second delay, after all.
It's
a delay, yeah.
But they don't. But that's okay. I mean, even if there is a delay, if the moves are memorized, they figure why not just go with it?
Right.
Go fast.
Exactly. And here we're looking at the game between Levon and Fabiano, and Fabiano is vaunted. Petrov has now been played against Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and Levon Aronian. Everybody is getting a crack with the white pieces, but can anybody dent this extremely solid Petrov?
Fabi's play with the black pieces has really been extraordinary. I mean,
indeed.
You look at his openings, Magnus couldn't break him down in any of those games. And in many cases, Magnus was running away from some of those positions. We remember Rook D8 novelty in the World Championship. And Magnus had an expletive to say when he said he saw that move land on the board. It's like, whoa, you can do that?
You can do that.
What's going on here? And he backed down a couple of times against Fabi's ferocious novelties. I say ferocious just means moves that you don't expect to see, and suddenly they're working on the board. And he was able to prove that black is more than okay. So where do you go after him, as he has been just fully armed to neutralize White's initiative?
Exactly. And here is from the Petrov. Let's just take it from the top very, very quickly. E4, E5, the Petrov. And these days, knight C3 is the main move. I mean, everybody, it seems, has played knight C3, eschewing the much older, much more common D4. And they very quickly get into this position where both sides are castled on opposite flanks. You'll remember, Jen, that at the Sinquefield Cup, we had this bishop c4, this very early bishop c4 by Magnus Carlsen. And what Fabi has been doing recently from the Berlin as well as the World Championship matches, instead of bringing his knight to f6 very quickly, he's reset his pawn in the center on the c6 and d5 squares, bishop d3, and do we have a move from Fabi after bishop d3?
No, I don't see one yet.
No, still not yet.
Well, I have to say, if Maurice asked us, or was it you who asked to predict the chances of a decisive game today after seeing the openings, whatever your odds were, it's got to be a little lower.
I got to be a lot lower now.
Yeah.
At the moment, because both black players are playing the most solid defenses to 1e4. And here I was just expecting to move knight c5. And after a little delay, a little bit surprising delay, I must say, knight c5 was eventually played by Fabiano. As with this bishop on d3, eyeballing a potential sacrifice on h7, we often see white playing the move h4 in conjunction with bishop d3. And I believe h4 is on the board. h4 is on the board.
h4, knight takes d3, quickly played.
Yes, because once again, bishop takes h7 check, knight g5 checks. These are the types of sacrifices that black wants to avoid, and he avoids them very well indeed by simply eliminating this very good bishop on d3. And we're expecting queen takes d3. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Just to mention that in case of pawn captures d3, this bishop could come nicely to the king side, either with bishop f6 followed by bishop f5, or bishop f5 immediately. I think they're both good. Queen takes d3 stops this bishop from coming to f5. But boy, Jen, it seems like white's putting all of his I want to say all of his eggs behind knight g5 to try to get something on the king side. That
you think it's too artificial?
Gosh, it just feels like there's not enough in this position. Queen d6, this is a very good defensive play, because the idea is as if you go knight g5, hoping to force some weaknesses.
Or some weakness, G6.
Something g6 or something of that nature.
You just go queen g6, right?
Queen g6 just stops.
And I mean, black could end up being better in these types of situations, because I'm going to go bishop at f5, and once I get my rooks to the center.
Assert the two bishops, and why not, right?
So
queen d6 is the last turn of Fabiano.
So.
And again, if you go knight d4 with the idea f3 and g4, it really is looking slow. And again, queen g6 might be a very good way of neutralizing the situation. Let's just turn back to the finals tables, and somehow white's queen side just got mangled. Let's see how that happened, Jen.
Yeah.
Well, we got right into this famous Berlin ending. King e8, one of the older moves. This all looks like the match between Magnus Carlsen and Vichy Anand. This seems to all be very standard stuff. And that's how white's queenside structure got dinged, was the capture. And very quickly, are we all still in theory, Maurice?
We just exited, in fact, a very popular position for not just theory. You're talking about all the top players having experimented in this line. I'm talking about names like Karyakin, Vachier-Lagrave, Kramnik, Topalov, and of course Nakamura on this list as well. And in fact, this exact position has been seen before in Nakamura's practice after rook after e1, bishop to b4, and as you call it, the mangling with the move a3 on this side of the board. g4 has been played before, but Nakamura himself faced this against one Sergei Karyakin right here in St. Louis this year in Blitz. And he ended up losing that game against Sergei. Well, Sergei also faced this position in Rapid against Vachier-Lagrave. And he managed to draw the game. In this position, he played differently, however. He played rook 8 to d8 in this game. Nakamura, when he faced it the first time, played rook to g6, but this time he had a new wrinkle, the move h4. So if we jump back to the game position, you see here after bc3, instead of rook g6, he starts with the move h4, restraining white on that side. Maxime seemed ready for it, though. He instantly played knight e4, rook g6, and now g4 anyway, hg3 after g3, and talk about a pawn structure that only a mother could love. I mean, this position just looks awful in terms of white's formation, and the opposite colored bishop's black looks very solid here. But there's something about this that Maxime really likes. It must be the space on this side. There's still the 3-2 that white is hoping he'll be able to somehow make some hay with, but certainly not your traditional pawn structure that you'll tell your students to adopt. Well, at the highest level, they come up with a lot of curious ideas. This pawn structure stops this 4 against 3 anyway, so he's not worried about that, and also not worried about losing these guys on this side of the board. We'll see whether or not he can make some kind of pressure in this endgame.
French cheese pawn structure over there.
French cheese, Swiss cheese.
Yeah, no. Holes in it.
Yeah, I was going to say that I understand that from White's point of view, he does have a plan. Okay, on a good day, let's just imagine what his plan might be. If we imagine the position after g4 and something like this, right? If you take a look at that rook, it does have the potential of being somewhat trapped, like artificially isolated. How will black ever get his rook back into play? White's intention is to play, for example, some moves like king f2 and king f3, and slowly use his king side pawn structure to advantage. So I can imagine that there is the potential of wayward rook. Now, having said that, what to do when black plays moves like bishop d5 and rook e6, bringing that wayward rook into play. That's something for Maxime to decide. Can he get an edge here? It's going to be a challenge. Maurice.
Looks terrible. I mean, really, I'm sorry. It looks ridiculous.
In terms of getting an advantage?
Yeah, I mean, really, when you look at this, the pawn structure, looks...
That is an ugly pawn structure.
Bad.
Yeah,
the rook is not
isolated pawn.
Your move bishop d5 looks perfectly fine.
Isolated pawn.
The only thing I could feel about this position is
the rook play.
That knight on f5 will be kicked eventually, and where will it live in the long term? So there is the potential for expansion, but like your move, for example, bishop d5 with the idea of bringing the rook to e6 and maybe...
Looks fairly straightforward, right?
Looks like a natural plan.
Let's say I go.
Of getting this piece somewhere. And this is the main question. I would put my knight back on e7, naturally.
Yeah, and so more or less I don't know why and how, but somehow in these Berlins where white can escort his pawns, push his pawns up the board with his king on g3. That seems to be the place to put the king.
Okay, but what happens if we figure out a way to start addressing your e-pawn? Something like king f8, let's say.
King to f8, okay. Well, you haven't captured my knight.
Right. I could have done it on the last move, and then but then I can't play king f8 because there's also the idea of trading rooks and putting a rook on e6 and a knight on g6. This is what I'm thinking about. If I could get a rook on e6, a knight on g6, just really...
And then go knight to g6, yeah?
And the knight can also go to d5. My timing could work out just right.
Right.
Once I trade.
Well, let's see how that timing could potentially work in your favor. So let's say I play rook d3.
Let's put rook on e8.
Rook to e8. So I'm thinking that you're going to capture my knight, put your knight on g6. I'll go knight to g5. First of all, again, I'm looking to artificially isolate the rook.
Yes, and there's an issue if you could play e6 just for fun at some moment.
Yeah.
I'm not watchful.
In principle, I think it's nice if white does get an opportunity to trade the e5 pawn for the c7 pawn. The position opens up, but I have to make sure that I'm going to be better developed to take advantage of that active situation.
Let's go back a move. Let's go back here. You played rook.
This is actually, I think that,
Let's play the most straightforward way.
Okay.
Let's play the most straightforward way. So
did you like?
you play king f2. Yeah, bishop d5.
I think I went here, here, here. Yes.
Let's play the most boring
Direct.
way possible. Let's take on e4 and let's see what this ending looks like.
Okay. Takes.
And if I play...
You want to stick your knight on d5 now instead of g6.
Now, I was going to play rook d8. I was going to trade off another pair of rooks
Okay.
and test this ending, but I'm afraid of rook d4. Should I be worried about this move?
Rook to David 4?
Rook, no,
No, he means the other rook.
The other rook.
Running
I see.
checkmate.
Because but I'm not sure I need to be afraid of this idea.
For sure you don't want to help my pawn structure. But here I was thinking that, again, I wanted to artificially isolate your rook. Maurice takes, let's say king f3. So
Okay, rook e6.
Rook e6, excuse me. And let's go. So if I could get my pawns to h5 and maybe c4, I'm trying to play against the knight. Is it enough, though? I know that in many cases of the Berlin defense, one way you can play for black is to play this move c5, and the rook comes swinging across to the a6 square, and because you dinged up the mangled the queenside structure, you can play to attack the pawn on a3.
Another idea is b5.
So king f3, b5. Okay, the idea behind that is to secure the outpost d5 so that you can meet c4.
Well, no, really, I'm headed to c4. My knight is going d5, b6, c4. What's my
Intent.
my original intent? To give my knight a square with some activity as well. And if you play for c4 yourself, then
You could go the other way to the c4 square.
if I can somehow convince you to
let
out my
me
pawn structure.
Exactly.
But even here, there's some dynamics for white, though. I like the bishop in this position because it does seem like a pawn will land on h6 with effect. So we're seeing the endgame play itself out.
With h4, h5, g5.
And I think this is what Maxim is looking for, the potential for this h pawn to go down the board.
Exactly.
And this is no doubt what he sees as the salient feature in the position.
Exactly.
The fact that someday he'll play h5, g5, h6, etc. And it's a dark square. h8 is a dark square, so he's promoting on a dark square.
Well, if you can ever get that 8 past h-pawn, Jen, and use the 3 versus 2 majority in the Berlin, it is genuinely a nice advantage for white. Let's just take a quick look at the Petrov game.
Well, it looks like Levon has just played the move.
Oops.
Has gotten the move c4, getting rid of those double pawns,
Okay,
which
just a
protects
second.
his...
So we have left it just after knight takes d3,
Knight
queen
d3.
takes d3. We were eyeballing a chance for knight g5, and that was why queen d6 was played, and
now Levon sees the moment to get this move c4 in.
because he's taking advantage of the fact there is a pin along the d file.
And after rook d8, c takes d5, and Fabi's on move, trying to decide what to take with here. He can
Recapture.
take with the queen because there's no real effective discoveries, it looks like.
Okay, that certainly has my vote. Queen takes d5.
But then after queen takes d5, one way or the other, you are going to get that imbalance of an isolated pawn for the two bishops. And what are your thoughts on that, Yaz?
Draw. I mean, a very easy draw. Neither player is going to be better. I mean, it's just that after after something like this, you've always got to consider the fact that, well, first of all, this pawn is hanging. I better be careful about losing that. The two bishops is just simply compensation enough.
Well, it doesn't
for
look
the
like,
isolated
I mean,
queen
it doesn't
pawn.
look like Yvonne is very ambitious in this game, Yaz, and I think maybe it
And
goes
we're
back into that same philosophy of Magnus and Nakamura, that he thinks he maybe has an edge in the faster games. And
Absolutely.
he's speeding towards rapid and blitz.
Well, there you go. I mean, but on the other hand, it's just a very strange way of throwing away the white pieces here.
Throwing away, you don't get anything with white these days.
I know, that's the problem.
Conceding it.
I still believe in the white pieces.
And Jen, you made a very important point that if in this format might promote some of this kind of, I want to say, waffling, throwing marshmallows from 50 feet, as you call it. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
At each other.
It's not hand-to-hand combat.
No, it certainly is not. But basically here, the players are saying, this guy's not that good at rapid and blitz. I mean, they're just shouting it.
Cold-blooded, aren't
bones
they?
about it. They're
Yeah.
saying, this guy is not that good at rapid
As
and
they
blitz.
throw the marshmallow, they're saying, "You suck at blitz."
Yeah, there you go.
Wait till we get to rapid and blitz, and we're going to have some fun with you and make your calculations because you're so good at classical that we know. Why play chess in this place with you? No, let's go to where we know you're weaker. Clearly, Fabi's virtually tied for first as the number one player in the world. The clear number two player on the planet. You don't have to fight him here. You don't fight him here. That's simply what's being said right now. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing in these classical games against Fabi. Nobody wants to face off against his tremendous preparation, against positions that he just plays when he's comfortable.
Well, unfortunately for the fans, but for Fabi playing the black pieces, that's the problem. It's like as
game.
I pointed out, the issue for me is that in these hybrid formats, you would think that if somebody has an edge in the blitz and the rapid, and they're trying to play for a draw, consequently, there should be an equilibrium where the other player doesn't want that to happen. But because, especially with the black pieces in chess, it's very hard to take the huge risk, and also because of the confidence effect of anybody at this level, they're not going to agree like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get killed in blitz.
Yeah,
no,
right,
because
no.
Fabi's had some great blitz results as well. So somehow it doesn't. There's no counter effect. There's an effect that sometimes people are playing for a draw, but it doesn't seem that there's a strong counter effect that, like, if you looked at it from a theory point of view, you would expect there to be. And I'm not quite sure exactly why that is. If it's more because of the nature of chess, or it's more because of the nature of confidence if you're already at this level.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about Maurice as we opened up the show, and he was talking about how did the players get here? And you saw that in Paris and Leuven, 9th place by Fabiano, and he was very, very fortunate in the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz to score 1 point more than did Levon, because that put him in the situation at the Sinquefield Cup where once he tied for first with Levon and with Magnus, he could get into that playoff with Wesley.
Excuse me, it was very important that Wesley didn't do well
Also
in
as
St.
well.
Louis. That was
Yeah.
huge because Wesley only getting 26. Any little
Right.
bit more Wesley, because Wesley had won Leuven, right? So he'd already
Right.
gotten a full 13 points in one event. Wesley then only scored 13 points in the next 3 total to get to only 26. Think about the fall off he had after such a spectacular start in Leuven. So Fabi was very fortunate even to make it here with this combination format of rapid and blitz and classical. He showed in the St. Louis Rapid in the Sinquefield Cup, hey, you with classical games, I got no problems. But he absolutely struggled in the other format. And it's showing once again that the players believe that he will struggle. And strategically, when you play Fabi, if you got a hybrid format, just neutralize his classical game and take him on in a rapid and blitz. And it makes so much sense to do that you'd almost be stupid not to do it. It's like, why would you, if you're Levon, why would you say, let me go all guns blazing in a format where the other guy far outrates him, by the way. I mean, it's about 60 rating points between them now.
Wow.
Something like that. Why would you do that when the guy's so comfortable, his preparation's so fantastic, when you can take him someplace else where your consensus, no doubt, he's going to be worse than you?
Exactly. Well, yeah, you put it like that. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Get to the rapid and blitz and get there quickly. By the way, surprising for me, Jen, as in the game between Levon and Fabi, after the trade of queens, we didn't see a trade of rooks. Rather, c6 takes d5 was Fabi's choice.
Is he trying to keep some juice in the position? Perhaps if we get the chance to play bishop g4,
yeah,
I would
no,
be
it's
pretty
because
happy.
for sure, and because of the threat of bishop g4 might be too strong, but I wanted to put my knight on d4. I'm eyeballing knight b5, which hits the pawn on a7, as well as knight c7, which would fork the rook and the d5 pawn. So knight d4, I don't know, bishop d7 perhaps? What do you think?
Sure, just distract knight b5, develop the piece.
Right, all very, very good stuff. Now,
He has played knight d4.
Indeed. And then I'm going to borrow a page from the playbook of Magnus Carlsen. Should I play rook?
You're trying to play like rook on HD. Oh, you're just doing that. I see.
Yeah, remember what
Yeah, I feel
from
like
the
that was a
Sinquefield
little
Cup.
different.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought you were going to play f3. Was what you're saying.
Or
Play F3
maybe
and go
h5.
and go for g4. h5 also.
Something also to be said for h5, Maurice?
Right, start it
So
so that you get h6 in before you start the hook.
Right.
Let's take a look at the breakdown of these two with the faster games. As you see, actually, Levon does not have an edge so far in their matchups in Blitz, although that's not a large number of games, only 6 games.
Or rapid.
Well, indeed. The
And
rapid actually is in Fabi's favor.
Yeah, and certainly that makes sense. By the way, in the universal rating system, they're actually really very close. I checked yesterday, and I believe it was 4th and 5th, with Fabi in 4th and Levon in 5th. So, yeah, just incredibly 2 well-matched players here.
Although I think psychologically, it's a moment in time.
Right.
We're talking about. Fabi just lost a rapid match against Magnus horribly. Then he just lost again to Nakamura pretty badly.
Right.
Now Levon is saying, well, when you got to kick him while they're down.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe next year he'll get some confidence back.
Right.
But right now, kick him while he's down.
Right.
Because he hasn't done well in the last few weeks in any rapid and blitz matches. So let's take him there. Is Fabi thinking the same? Let me avoid just easily drawing that position you were talking about, take with the rook, get pieces off the board and go into the rapid and blitz? Or is he thinking, no, I'm going to try to win this game?
Win?
But why did he take with the pawn instead of the rook?
That I'm still confused about. The only explanation I might have is that had he captured right away with the rook takes, pawn takes, let's say rook to d1, he saw that this rook coming to d1, white gets to do that with tempo. In other words, the rook on d1 has been traded for the rook on d8, and he might have thought, okay, by preserving the rooks from the very start, I'll deny this rook coming over. But now, having said that, I mean, he's the one with the pawn weakness. So if you can trade off pieces that would attack the pawn weakness, the pawn is not going to be weak at all.
Absolutely.
So it is a little bit, I'm a little bit thrown back.
It's a risky move.
It is.
I think it's a risky move. And you got to wonder why is he feeling the doubt himself?
Maybe
because
he wants to have a classical game. Yeah.
Let's be clear.
I like that.
You say you like it. I'm sorry. Every time you say you like something, Jen.
What? Wait,
the last time you said you like something for Fabi, he got ripped apart.
Wait a second.
When did that happen?
Game 2 of the rapid match.
Oh, yeah.
When Fabi got this exciting position.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, oh, this is exciting. And then Magnus went, it was not so exciting. You got to be careful just gaining activity just for activity's sake. This is a dangerous territory, testing these top players by saying, yeah, you know, I'm going to keep it funky. They know how tough the other player is. And when you start mixing it up, and a lot of players say, well, you should play some risk. We want to see some risk.
Risk taking.
Risk this. You know who you're playing against?
Yeah.
You try to be risky They see through all this stuff. It's not just risk for risk's sake. You cannot do that against these guys. They've seen just about everything. And you've got to play the right positional move and decide, is this the right thing to do right now? Because you might feel, with him mixing it up, in about 6 or 7 moves, you might say, well, I'm not really sure I like this position very much.
Why did I mix it up after all?
Well, actually, Levon has just played the move knight to b3, guys.
Well, hold on. What happened after knight d4?
Bishop d7, as you
Bishop
Bishop
d7,
d7.
as predicted.
Well, yeah, exactly. You've got to take this threat of knight b5 quite seriously. Like, for example, let's say you just make a bad move. Knight b5 comes with effect. This pawn on a7 would be lost, or knight c7 once again would fork the rook and the d5 pawn.
No, I was thinking you were going to go bishop a7 and win the exchange. Like knight c7,
Oh.
b8, bishop a7 is a nice little pattern.
Yeah, so for example, hello.
Instead of taking that pawn off here, just bishop a7 is
first.
a puncher.
Yes, and then you capture the exchange, as you say. So bishop d7 was aimed at preventing the move knight b5, and then you said knight b3 immediately. Okay.
So we would love to go.
Give me the pawn.
And now we have to move the bishop, and we can move it to f5, e6. I don't really want to put it on c6 that much because then, if I ever play rook c8 and blocking my own file.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking I want to keep it on that c8 to g4 diagonal.
Well, certainly this is the most active, right? If you were thinking that, oh boy, I want to like in Sicilian fashion, I want to use the C file, then you would think that, okay, maybe the bishop.
And guess what, Yaz?
What?
Knight d4, and guess what? Bishop d7.
We've seen that.
No. I'm just saying our analysis.
Oh,
because you don't really want to go bishop g6 because of h5, right?
Oh, that would be very
You'd
nice.
actually be very embarrassing.
You'd end up getting your bishop trapped.
So you kind of actually are compelled to play bishop d7, and then we could
potentially see just a quick repetition if white chose.
But can white try something else after knight b3? After knight b3, bishop f5.
Mm-hmm.
If bishop f5 has
on
the
board.
We do have bishop f5.
What else is there here? Is there something with no? You can't.
Knight d4 back on the board.
Boy, that is
wow.
really
I was
cynical.
right about something, yes.
Well, I mean, no, Jen. I mean, that cynical way of just going directly.
And there we have
Bishop
it.
d7 now on the board again, and we're seeing
for rapid and blitz.
But maybe if he's going to differ at this moment, it's going to be now, because I think once you play knight b3, bishop f5, like rook c8 could be coming. You want to put that knight back on d4.
Yeah.
So if there's some moment to change your mind, it's
now. Now is the moment. Well, again, I was all for. I was thinking that Levon would want to actually press with white. I was thinking to play a move like h5, followed by kingside expansion with f3 and g4, and just maintain this knight on d4.
But there it is,
knight
knight
b3
played, and now after bishop f5, again, you can't really stick anything on c5 because of takes twice and rook c8. That would be very unadvisable. After bishop f5.
Yes.
It's not like you can stick something on c5 because we could take twice and play like rook c8. I guess you could always play knight d3. We could also take right away, and then after rook c8, b4, there's b6.
Exactly.
And you don't really want to get into this.
Yasser,
No.
this brazen
And
disregard of the white pieces, just not battling at all. It's pretty frustrating. If I'm a fan who showed up to watch the greatest players in the world play chess, and it's a whole day of it we're talking about. I came here for the day to come in and to see them play this kind of chess.
Well, Magnus, I think it's about Magnus, the best player in the world. Like, these guys are taking a cue from him, and they have a draw. Not Fabi, by the way.
You're blaming Magnus? I'm sorry.
Wait a sec.
I blame Magnus for this.
I feel like if they see Magnus do it in an absolutely astonishing situation where even Kramnik and Gary were incredibly harsh, then I mean,
incredulous of the draw.
I mean, this is, let's be clear. This isn't nearly as bad. So maybe they're saying, like, hey, if Magnus did it because of this like cold calculation of the math, then why can't I want to win just like Magnus does. I mean, and that's like taking a cue from the #1 player in the world.
How can I argue there? Because it's, I'm with Maurice. I'm sitting there going, man, this isn't what I paid to see. I want to see the two best, four of the greatest chess minds the world has to offer. I want to see them mixing it up. And this is the marshmallows.
40 minutes for marshmallows. These are good buddies. I'm about to go watch some sports, some football.
NFL is
the NFL is on, guys. Let's go hang out.
Well, I mean, they're gonna for the consolation match. This is what they're gonna do tomorrow. They're gonna play 2 rapid games, and they're playing blitz, 4 blitz, and it feels like this is a nightmare for Fabiano.
No. He's gonna win. He's gonna rapid.
In the blitz.
You're making predictions?
I think he'll win in the rapid. Yeah, he'll win the rapid, and then it's all about whether Levon can come back in the blitz.
This is a nightmare. Come on,
Thank
Maurice.
you.
Let's be honest.
Real.
You're Fabiano Caruana. 3 months ago, everybody on the planet was saying, you're the underdog. Why are you the underdog, Fabi? It's not because of the match itself. It's because of the potential tiebreak. That's why you're the underdog. And Fabiano said, I'm not afraid of that scenario.
No,
Maurice.
Yeah, right. And
here we are today.
We're back in the same scenario he was in. Again, it's London. Don't forget, he just had this problem in London.
Right.
He played for the title of his life. And because of rapid, quicker time control, he had a completely disastrous spanking. I mean, there's no way to put that. 3-0. That's never been done in the history of tiebreaks. He had the worst result ever and the worst result possible even. So he has already had that nightmare. He left London virtually the next day he could, came back home to St. Louis to refresh. He goes back to London, and what does he see? First thing, he plays 2 classical games against Naka. Those end in draws, and then the disaster with rapid again. Well, let's hear his thoughts on this situation as we do have him with Alejandro in London.
Thank you, Maurice. We're here with Fabiano Caruana. You've drawn your game here in the semifinal, the third place, against Levon Aronian with the black pieces. Obviously something that is quite okay since you're black, but do you feel that everybody's just targeting your rapid and blitz?
Not really. I thought Levon probably wanted to get more out of the opening than he got. Could get the game. I mean, there's not much to talk about in the game, but...
Well, you can talk about whatever about the game, the little there is.
But it is dangerous for black if I don't play queen d6. And it can still be very complicated if I play c5 instead of c takes d5.
In this position?
Yeah, which is a double-edged move. I mean, you take some strategic risk with white, but you also get a lot of dark squares and you try to attack on the king's side.
All right, so c5 here in this position at least keeps the game alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's very, very complicated after this. CD5 is probably about equal.
You say that you don't feel that people are targeting your rapid and blitz, but you come from 2 kind of difficult mini matches in rapid. Do you feel that there's something you really need to improve for Levon not to do the same tomorrow?
Oh, of course I have to improve my play. I mean, that goes without saying. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think, I mean, these are very ambitious players, all of them, and when they have the white pieces, they want to win. And especially since classical is so weighted in this event, that 6 points is pretty much an insurmountable lead. So nobody is playing for a draw here. It's just that sometimes you don't get so many chances with white. Sometimes the play kind of dissipates.
Well, we'll definitely be asking your opponent about what he thought of his chances today and where it went wrong. Of course, black draw, good result for you. And good luck tomorrow, Fabi.
Thank you.
Well, we go back to the studio, and we'll have Levon Aronian here soon with us.
Thank you. Controversial statements being made there by Fabi, because we're commentators. We're on the outside looking in on the flame, and to us, it's extremely obvious what the top players are playing for. They want to
Well, I guess-
drag him to a blitz and rapid.
I guess he's saying that this opening has a little bit of poison, and maybe
Okay.
Levon was taking one gamble, one little wee gamble that
Make sure
Queen D6.
he knew about.
Right, but I mean, hard to imagine Fabi not knowing that after having played Magnus and having to prepare all of those lines. Yeah.
Sure. Here's how the players fare in the universal rating system, which is the combination of classical, rapid, and blitz. Numbers 4 and numbers 5 in the world. And I'm guessing Fabi's number 4 because of the
Classical.
tie breaks.
And we do have Alejandro with
The
11.
World Championship. That's tie.
Thank you. And we are with Levon Aronian, who has informed me he has taken 2 full points from Fabiano Caruana's rating. Levon, I'm sure with the white pieces you wanted to press. Where did it run wrong?
Yeah, I'm usually not the guy to go for a short draw with white. But since it's a match, I thought to be practical. After all, I have much higher rating in rapid and blitz than Fabiano, so it's mathematically it should be not a bad decision. So
it is clear that people are targeting his rapid and blitz in this kind of matches.
no, he's a very good rapid and blitz player, but he has a low rating, so I mean, it suggests that maybe he doesn't feel that comfortable compared to regular chess. So
Now, was this a strategy going into the game, or did you feel that you just let the advantage go at some point?
no, honestly speaking, I checked this line, but I mainly paid attention to other also very interesting lines for black. But this Queen D6, I remember that there is this line with C5, but it's very, very complicated. I think C5, Queen G6, Queen C3, H5, something like this. And it's a very double-edged position because, you know, he gets his bishop. And so I thought that had I prepared this before the game, had I not looked at the other lines, I would go for this. But
So in a sense, a little bit surprised about which variation of the Petrov he chose.
no, I mean, this position, there are at least 4 decent moves for black. So
I know.
yeah. So knight c5 was the one that I expected the least because I thought that the other moves are safer.
Okay. So knight c5, a little bit of a surprise. You decided, well, mathematically, it makes sense for you to go into rapid and blitz, and that's where you're headed, tied up tomorrow. Well, I have you here a little bit, perhaps your insights on what's going on in the MVL versus Nakamura game. We saw that Nakamura took quite a bit of time to play this move, f takes g3, bishop d5, and now we're in this kind of complicated Berlin endgame, which tends to dissipate, but before that happens, usually there's a lot of wrinkles that are very important.
I think the most important point is if black can neutralize with f5.
f5 right away in this position.
Yeah, because it looks the most natural. If black can make this work, I don't know, rook e5, this is maybe not so safe. Bishop g5, yeah?
Here in bishop g5, targeting the rook, and then rook d7 coming.
Yeah. Maybe something like, I don't know. So knight d5, rook f5, takes on e6, then it's slightly worse for black, yeah? Maybe.
In this kind of...
That can be unpleasant.
Right.
Because after all, these guys tend to run away. Yeah, maybe he keeps the pressure.
Right. MVL very convincing with some of these preparations against the Berlin. Obviously, he managed to get a little bit of something against you in the rapid game.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I just created trouble for myself by being too ambitious at some point.
Does that happen? Here after f5, then we think that perhaps white retains the pressure with rook e5. Any other candidate moves?
If you just take the rook, then this should be quite unpleasant. Bishop comes to e5. I don't know.
So perhaps still a little bit of difficulty here for Hikaru Nakamura to fully equalize in this variation, despite it being, you know, a Berlin endgame.
I mean, it all depends if he's in time to get his pieces quickly, like put pawn on b5 and knight on d5. So, but definitely there are some questions to answer.
Right. Well, a little bit of pressure then for the Frenchman. Thank you, Levon, for joining us here.
Thanks.
Good luck tomorrow in the Rapid and Blitz as we determine the 3rd and 4th place of the Grand Chess Tour this season.
Wow, well,
Thank you,
interesting
Alejandro.
thoughts from Levon there, as this, it looks like it's a critical moment here for Nakamura, as
Exactly.
these two moves, F5 and Rook takes E6, that have been discussed, are so dramatically different in terms of the character of the game that results, right?
Well, I think Rook takes E6 is just the ending that Levon was pointing out. Rook takes E6, Rook takes E6, Bishop takes C7. It's quite clear that white is the only one for choice. This bishop is actually going to have this beautiful outpost on the E5 square, dominating both the defense of C3, the attack on the pawn on G7, and then this majority of 2 for 1 can make itself clear. Whereas I think that F5 is by far the more difficult move for the white player to face down. After Rook E5, there's still some complicated stuff going on here. I can take on this pawn and see if I can't deal with Rook D7 by moving my knight. Well, let's just ask Maurice. Maurice, what's going on in this? Is F5 the right move?
Well, F5 is being given as the best move for sure. The ending you're talking about will always be slightly worse for black, no question about it, the one you discussed with Rook takes,
yeah,
etc. But F5 is sharp by itself. We should point out this move, Rook E5, very strong, because after takes, H4 is what the engine really likes here, and suddenly this Rook is finding itself in a very strange situation. Note this Rook will go to D7, Bishop will go to G5, and you're going to get hurt. So this position is not good, but the engine does say after F5, Rook E5, that the best move is Rook to D8. Very interesting idea of trading off this Rook, so now you don't have the Rook D7 idea, and now he's back to wanting to trade on the G4 square. So you move your king. I don't know why H2 and not F2, but you remove your king here, takes, and now obviously takes, you lose your pawn, so Bishop to G5 is the line it's given, takes. And this really fascinating position, it's giving triple zeros, although white just sacrificed a pawn and is trying to count on this pin as being the thing. This Rook is trapped after all. There's some kind of maneuver to try to come up towards this king, but it's still giving triple zeros in this position and tossing out C5 as the best move. This we got to look at.
Yeah.
We really got to look at really carefully, because this line is going to be a hard one for Nakamura to deeply understand. He's going to have to dig into to see if he's indeed equal here. Looks like all his pieces are tied down. He's pinned on this square. Maybe he'll get a chance to move his king and then figure out how to move his knight, but it does look very quick, like this king is going to come out the board. Again, giving all zeros in this position is the computer. Of course, it's calculating billions of positions a minute. That said, I would like to go back to Levon's statement and even his attitude after this game. He made it very clear that he wanted this draw. I mean, every concept, every statement he made to me suggested that I'm better than this guy in Rapid and Blitz. The numbers speak for themselves. Why play for anything else? If it's almost as if it weren't Fabi, just replace him with, like, let's say Karyakin, or Wesley, then you would see a whole different attitude from these players. They're not going to waltz into a situation where you get somebody like Karyakin or playing. You want to play him in Blitz? You're not going to just run there. You would see more contentious games, but it seems like just this specific player, the disparity between his amazing excellence in classical chess and his Rapid and Blitz, which are pretty good, I mean, by our standards, amazing, but not by their standards, it's just very obvious that you go for the liquidation. And it's unfortunate because it leads to games like this.
So what happens, I think the hybrid format with classical and blitz and rapid, maybe it seems really exciting and awesome because it's all with the spirit of the universal weighting system in the Grand Chess Tour. But maybe it needs to be done a little differently.
Yeah,
but wait a minute. It's not a good Before you go after the structure, let's make this point. Maxime and Naka.
Yes.
Their matchup right now has been pretty contentious.
That's true.
Right?
Absolutely.
Maxime yesterday could have won the game. Simply.
It was close.
Today, he's going for it. It's not like he's trying to make a draw.
So you think it's only Fabi because he's weaker at rapid?
I just want to make that point. Let's just take that.
Sure.
Aronian versus Vachier-Lagrave. That was exciting. Aronian could have won that match, right? If he did the right things in the classical. Were they playing for draws in those two?
They still all been draws, though.
No, forget the results. The draws are going to happen. We're talking about the spirit of the competition.
For sure, but the point is, if it's just going to be some significant cases where they're more likely to play for a draw, and then you add to it the massive draw margin that there already is in chess, it's not really what you want, right?
No, but again, I just think matchups matter, players matter. If you put Magnus in front of one of these players, it's not like, well, Magnus could steer it into rapid and blitz if he wants to, but if he was playing against Nakamura, for example, he's not going to be thinking, well, I'm just going to dominate the guy in rapid and blitz, let me just make 2 quick draws, especially since he has such a good classical score against Naka. So then you're going to see contentiousness. If it was Karyakin, why would he just want to go into rapid and blitz? That sounds like a toss-up to go against a Naka or a Vachier-Lagrave. Their players matter, and I think the disparity is very, very clear that this players can go for draws. Like, that would be the right plan. He's too good in classical, so you can go for draws. And it's unfortunate because all the other games, I mean, you talk about Levon against Vachier-Lagrave, he could have won that match basically in the classical portion, right? He was after him both games.
Right. But Maurice, if, for example, Hikaru Nakamura, before the match, had it in his mind, I'm going to make 2 draws in the classical and drag him to his doom in the blitz. Hikaru saying into himself.
Going to drag who?
Fabi.
Fabi, okay.
Okay. But you still got to draw those 2 classical games. And the game that Fabi was white, that was a really great game. I mean, there was some really good kingside checkmating attacks that Fabi was, really trying to throw. And Hikaru, just by the skin of his teeth, drew that game with black.
Well, I think these hybrid formats are a really good idea. Maybe it just needs to be tweaked a bit. I think, like, if you had a combination,
just the point scoring system,
or maybe a combination of formats every day. Like, if you had the classical time control a little bit shorter, so that, for instance, the max length was 4 hours, and you had like a classical game and a rapid game in the same day, or a couple blitz games in the same day, just so that like you mix it up, so it's not so heavy with these 6 points. Whereas Levon said, like, or was it Fabi who said, like, losing a classical game is just too big.
Too big.
You're out of the match.
Right.
So.
Are we going toward the time when, I feel like 2018 is going to be a demarcation year in chess in many ways, because organizers are realizing more and more that chess is becoming a bit too perfect, if you will. The players are playing so well that if you keep having these elite players play against each other, their preparation, time and time again, they get used to each other. Their preparation is fantastic.
Yeah.
Their defensive skills just simply amazing. You watch the way they can neutralize advantages. And then the advantages are tiny, and you say, there's a little something to play for, and then it's gone. Organizers are going to start maybe thinking, maybe we don't want just the elite players to play against each other.
Yeah.
Like only something like
a mixed field.
Like Tata Steel will have a mixed field.
Yeah.
You're going to see victories there. You're going to get excited again about classical chess. Oh, look at all these wins.
Right.
Look at this. Well, because you're not seeing the elite play the elite only. The other thing they might start doing is what Norway chess is doing, which is as dramatic as it gets. You get one time control.
Right.
That's it. I believe it's 2 hours for the whole game. And then if that's a draw, then you're playing an Armageddon game immediately.
Right.
I mean, that's as extreme as you're going to get, as far as I'm concerned. I think there's some middle roads to make it more engaging. And I think organizers are going to start looking at those middle roads and seeing, take a look at page from Norway chess and saying, do we want the old school, classical, 6 hours, luxurious format anymore, where it's about perfect chess and all we're going to watch is this draw after draw after draw and smattering of wins and beautiful games, but not enough to keep the fans fully engaged?
And by the way, Nakamura did play that critical move of F5 after a good thing. So well done, Nakamura, using his time at the critical moment, finding the right move.
as suggested by Levon, by the way. And then he played knight d5. It was like that very strange variation. How did it go with this? Maurice was mentioning that like there was an idea of even playing h4 and stuff. Oh. But what we did see is after rook e5, the immediate knight d5.
Right. Yeah, he's looking at his ending with rook takes on f5.
Rook takes f5. Yes, sorry.
Knight f4, rook f4.
Well, should we go into this 4 rook ending though?
Why not?
Well, because I've got my candidate pass pawn is more serious than your majority. So let's say I'll go h4. Just.
Is this really about the majority here in this position?
Well, I don't know.
I'm seeing the 4 rooks fighting against those pawns and white having a heck of a time defending them. For example, let's try rook e2 to start.
Rook e2.
I want to be aggressive.
Okay. I wanted to...
You're just going to ignore me.
Yeah, I wanted to put my pawn on h5.
Maybe we should
try... I'll play king e7.
Yeah, so giving you the chance to bring your other rook into the game.
Here you could go back. Sorry.
This is what I want to do with my rook. I want to challenge.
Yeah, I was trying to get... Guy. What's that? Sorry?
I was going to play rook to e3. Unless you're just ready to play g5 anyway.
Well, g5, rook h8. I've kind of got my pawns up the board. I need... Okay, let's go.
Yeah, this is a bit sharper. I thought I could neutralize you a bit easier than this.
But I understand what you're saying here with the rook ending, just the pure rook ending. That bishop is awfully strong.
I don't want to leave that bishop on the board.
Yeah, after rook takes f5, rook takes e6, you know, your knight's... That was what Levon was saying. If you've got the timing to play b5, maybe your knight is the right minor piece, right? It's all a timing.
But it's still 2 against 1 with the bishop on the board, though.
Okay,
right?
So rook takes, knight takes. You think this is the main line, as it would occur. This position. Here, what did I do? I think I went h4. I could also potentially try to neutralize this rook with something like king f2. Wow. But okay, guys, 38-minute game in our consolation match for the classical, and we've got 1 classical game left, and
might as well have been rapid.
Might as well have been rapid.
A rapid game would have been longer than that game.
We'll take our first break.
Well, as we go on our break, we
sure.
do have a little piece on some members representing the St. Louis Chess Club Youth Board. Even the youngsters doing quite a bit to help promote chess here in the St. Louis area. I'm with Sam and Catherine Zaczynski of the St. Louis Chess Club Youth Board, who's done some fabulous fundraising for the club. Welcome to the show, first of all. Guys, tell me about this initiative. Sam?
Okay, so this is the St. Louis Chess Club Youth Board, and we are a fundraising entity made up of high school students to raise money through different fundraising events for the St. Louis Chess Club Youth Board.
Catherine, why did you guys come up with this idea?
We came up with this idea because we saw a need to help serve the St. Louis Chess Club. Sam and I both have worked with chess. He's been playing chess for a really long time, and I have started a club at Nearinks, and the St. Louis Chess Club actually helped give some donations and help me start up it. So because of that, I feel like I want to give back and help give kids another opportunity to participate in the sport of chess.
Now, I know it was a fun event. It was at an extreme paintball park in Millstadt, Illinois. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that. That must have been really fun.
So we were running the event, and the event consisted of a haunted paintball ride. So people would get on this little trailer truck with like mounted paintballs and drive through a course. And whenever like a little zombie would pop up, you would get to shoot it, and that was the main appeal to it. Also, there was a scary maze that you would walk through and people would jump out at you. But whenever you would bring up a flyer to that, half of the proceeds would go straight back to the St. Louis Chess Club Youth Board.
Fantastic. Well, tell us, what other activities do you guys do?
Well, we all have representatives of this. We have a little bit of a smaller group right now because we're trying to work out kinks as we're expanding it in the next couple of years. But we have some representatives. For instance, our Corriese representative is teaming up with a chiropractor center in the local area. And anytime you buy a membership at that center in the month of December, half those proceeds go back to the St. Louis Chess Club.
That's all. Why is it that you want to raise money for the chess club? I know you said you're a chess player, but you must be familiar with what the club's initiative is here.
Yeah, so the chess club itself has helped me out a lot. They've given me coaches, and also with me and another girl in my grade school, we started up a chess club, and they helped fund it and give a coach to it. So because of that, we want to give back to the organization.
And who wins when the two of you play?
Oh, he will, definitely.
Always.
My experience with chess is a little more limited than his, definitely.
I've won trophies, so yeah.
I have not.
Gotcha. But thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and good luck.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Gonna make my move, gonna live my dream, gonna make my move, gonna live my dream. Every day, the future's getting closer. Every day, the future's looking bright. Every day is another beginning. Gonna make my move, gonna live my dream. Gonna make my move, gonna live my dream. Gonna make my move, gonna live my dream.
Hello and welcome back to our coverage of the London Chess Classic. As you see, there's 4 boards right up there today. As we also have the British knockout going on. But all eyes right now on this battle between Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave and Hikaru Nakamura, the game that will be the last classical game here in the Grand Chess Tour Finals. Can Maxime make something of this? As you pointed out, Yaz, even though Maxime's pawn structure is uglier than Hikaru's,
yes,
what really matters is not how pretty you are, but what's inside.
Well, what?
Or in this case, your chance of making a pass pawn.
Well, exactly. Well, there's 2 things that's going on here that I see as advantages for Maxime. Long term, he actually has this rather nice candidate majority on the king side. That is to say, I see him playing h4, h5 early, quickly, in order to be able to get a pass pawn. Secondly, right now there is a little discomfort here in Black's position between his king and most especially the rook on a8. If Black needs to play either rook to d8 or king e7 and get that rook going. So I see White as playing a move, for example, like h4, something that we just discussed with Maurice before we went on break, with the idea of putting the pawn on h5 and bringing the king to f2. Now, Black has ideas of c5 and rook a6, as mentioned. He also has ideas of king e7 and just developing his rook. And it's just one of those things that I think more or less the game is going to be decided in the next 4 or 5 moves. If Maxime gets to play h4, king f2, h5, and Black doesn't do anything, Maxime has very good winning chances. If Hikaru gets to play c5 and rook d8, gets his rook to a6, very good drawing chances.
But you just said something funny. You said,
sorry,
if he played h4, h5, and king f2, and Black
doesn't do anything.
How's Black going to do nothing?
Well, Black has to do something very, very consequent.
Okay,
yeah.
well, I think he's going to look for something
very consequent. Yeah, okay.
To do in that situation. This endgame certainly, it's a type that had the imbalances of the pawn structure, and that at least we can look at because you fix the pawn structure and then it's just equal. But that dynamic possibility you mentioned, c5, going after this pawn. And note, it's very important how you get this pass pawn. Because I think if it's just a trade of pawns, yes, I'm curious, in your opinion, if my king were to be standing in front of your pawn, let's say an h6 pawn.
Right.
And my rook is allowed to roam free, how do you eject me from in front of this pawn? Like, just how do you do it? If you were to just create the pass pawn by itself, my king, by some trade, were able to flip over to this side and stand in front of this pawn. Mm-hmm. Your king couldn't support the pawn, so your rook could be free because I could check you and chase your king away. Your rook can't support the pawn because then you can't eject my king from in front of that pawn either. Right? So that means the pass h pawn by itself, if I can blockade it, will with my king, will be insufficient to win the game. That said, if I can't do that and my rook has to be the one in front of it, that's a whole different ballgame. Then I'm going to get killed. Your king could support the h pawn, then your rook roams free, and I'm the one fighting for my life. So that's very important, like how you get this extra pawn passed, how you make it work. So you got to not only get the pass pawn, you got to make sure that my king is not blockading it. Right. Otherwise, that's going to be a draw. Well, so that's the challenge. Also, the other challenge you mentioned, counterplay for Black. These are some yummies. Mm-hmm. I mean, they look like gummy bears. You know, like go eat. Like they're just waiting to be captured. So unless you have some dynamic possibilities, which seems to say you should keep both rooks on the board, no? Otherwise, and Maxime has gone for this move, rook f1, again, keeping the energy of his rooks, king up to d7. A check is possible with the move rook to e7, ready on tap to protect against that. Doesn't look like you're going to keep both rooks on, but the 2 against 1, I think that's how you maneuver that is going to be really important.
Well, to what you just said there, Maurice, is that after rook f1, you
played.
Oops, excuse me.
Rook on d to f1 has been played.
Not the move h4. Sorry,
king d7 immediately played. Rook f7 check on the board. Rook e7 immediately.
Rook e7. So you were mentioning. I'm trying to get it, as you were saying, a pawn to h6. But if the black king was sticking on h7, defending, it's all very nice. At the moment, that black king is not crossing the f line boundary.
The Maginot line, as the French would say.
Yes, exactly. The Maginot line, indeed. So the black king is not getting to the h7 square. So again, maybe I'm wrong. I've been thumping the table for h4 for some time.
Makes sense.
What I don't want to see is I don't want to see black getting in the move g5 and kind of injuring my majority. But okay, let's say h4 and I don't know, rook moves, okay? Just something like, I don't know, this. So I'm trying not to get a passive position with black. What do you think about this line of play, Jen?
Yeah, I like what you're trying to do here to be active.
Right. But still,
you gotta calculate it all out, huh?
Yeah. Like, I don't know, some weird ideas.
Why did you play h6?
h6.
Well,
you want to do this?
I'm trying to get two connected pass
You got greedy.
Perhaps I should not have done this. I think I'm having a little bit too much fun.
H6 right away, yeah.
But okay, that was just a fantasy line, but you could see how the contours of the fight. This is what I was really trying to say a moment ago when I was bringing up this, like what I'm going to do in this ending. The next half dozen moves.
Happened?
What happened?
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing.
It's still Maxime's move, yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing he wants to play h4.
I don't think that white can be allowed to do all of what you just said.
h4.
Black needs to figure out how to compete in the short term against this pressure on his position.
Well,
and it's clear, by the way, as we were talking about finally getting a classical win.
Yeah,
it's clear that Maxime is not playing for a draw.
No, he's playing
to win,
for
and
his
he started
edge.
from the very beginning trying to win this game. And we know Naka has not been great in classical chess. His classical chess rating slipped is not the word. I mean, he slipped over a cliff.
He fell.
He
fell badly.
He used to be top 10. Now he's number 16 in the world. He's not even 2750.
I think he was top 4 or 5 at his
there was a
peak.
time he was over 2800.
I think he was tied for second once.
Okay,
yeah,
so
there was a
that's
time he was
big
over 2800.
Yeah,
if he went from number 2 to number 16, that's a big
Pretty
slip.
sure.
Okay.
Because I remember at that time, Nakamura was here at the chess club. He had just moved to St. Louis, and I know the club was really just watching it like a hawk. And I believe there's just one tournament after which he was crossed number 2.
The
Certainly number 3, but I'll check number 2 as well. And right now, indeed, he's number 16 in the world, although he did pick up a few points, obviously, with those 2 draws against Fabi.
Right. And we have just seen the move h4, by the way. And Maurice, you were about to suggest another line of play for Hikaru, because obviously if I can play h5, bring my king up, what was the other thing that you wanted to b6?
Well, the issue is with rook h8.
That was just a suggestion.
Right, and can he play king e8?
King Edgar.
I mean, just
more chill.
Just to free himself from this full-scale bind that you have him in on that. Okay, now you're going to trade rooks. All right, now we're
still
in this
have
position.
the Maginot line. King up. So on a good day, I want to go king g3, king h4, and more or less escort my pawn, my majority. At the moment, this queenside majority for black is stuck. It hasn't.
All right, so it looks like it has to be active. Rook d8 is forced.
If at some point I could play g6, that would be really cool. So that if I was able to play like g6, h takes g6, rook g8, and just win back my pawn and
chill.
Maybe that would be nice. But unfortunately, rook f7 could be annoying.
That's not
very
a bad idea.
annoying.
No, rook f7 is not
Not that irritating because of king d6, you mean?
Well, then
No.
But then you get to
No.
play
King
G7,
E6,
right?
King E6.
Yeah.
King Edgar 6?
Yes, you have to take. I'll give you my seat. I'll give you almost all those guys. Almost.
But
But the main problem is that stupid
King
G pawn.
G3,
That's the
yeah.
one that I'm
Right.
most concerned about. And so
Well,
I
I'm just, I mean, 2-result game there, so
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
play G6 in that
It is a
particular-
I'm saying
result
we're
game
looking
anyway.
for ideas like that because if we can consolidate and trade off some of these pawns, it's such a bind you have here.
Well, again, I'm sitting here saying, from Black's point of view, I'm looking for active play. If you want to play G6, Jen, you can actually just start with the move G6
Oh yeah, and then you can't
and play for King E6 or Rook G8 or what have you. But there's no question that Hikaru's on the back foot, and he's done something
Hold on a
earlier that got him into trouble. Please.
I
Maurice.
was thinking for some reason that it was not possible to create a passed pawn against White's pawns. But is it? Is that true?
You mean B5, C5, A5, B4?
Right. Can't I create a passed pawn?
You can try it, by all means, please.
When it's not doubled, you can't create a passed pawn by force. When the pawn's on B2.
Mm-hmm.
But I assume that was the case here as well. But it seems like you can create a passed pawn.
I don't see exactly how.
Well,
you want to start with A5.
When I play B4.
Yes.
Well, let's just show it so that the fans can see it as well.
So
let's do. I can also start with B5.
Okay.
Even though it's the worst one, it looks like the worst one to push.
Okay, it doesn't
But
matter.
let's just make a couple of king moves for White. And
Right.
do A5, king moves, C5,
A4.
a rook. All right. Now, if you push,
I will go A4.
and I can play C4 there though. I can create a pass pawn.
That is a good point. So then you
Right?
can
Even though
create
it
a pass pawn.
may not be the right thing, but and if you capture with your A pawn, obviously I already have a pass pawn. And if you capture with the
Right.
C pawn,
The same.
let's try that. Take with the C pawn, then I can take with.
And again, you've undoubled your
undoubled,
pawns,
and I can
and your majority is working.
So that's one
You've
way
got a
to
candidate.
create some counterplay.
Okay, now back up
Indeed.
because I just for some reason I had this
'Cause
factually wrong.
We got to look for rook F5. So there's some tactical.
So try B5 again. Try
sorry.
B5 again.
Okay.
I just want to make sure about
And
this.
I'll go with the same.
And try C4 now. Try C4
for white.
Oh, but C4 you can still just play A5, and I
Right.
can't.
Yeah.
I don't have time to stop your pass pawn from occurring. Oh yeah, of course I do. Duh. I was going to play C5 and then C3. All right.
Right.
But now I've stopped the pass pawn, right?
Right. I mean, okay, you can take.
Yeah.
But
And
then
play.
Yeah, and
So all right. So that's it. Factually, you can stop a 4 against 3 because we should know. These are the kind of things you just want to
Right,
know,
right,
You want to know as you go into it. And I had that as something I knew,
but
that there was no counterplay for Black on that side.
what you wanted to emphasize, though, Maurice, was that in case that C3 pawn was on the B2 square,
Oh, that I know is a
then
fact.
you knew
You can't
that
break
the
through.
4 versus
this-
3 you can never get.
You can never make a pass pawn.
But if we
You can try
start
all you
with
want.
A5, so if we start with A5, it doesn't really matter. They're still saying
Still C4.
you can still play for C4.
I can play C4, Jen,
And then after B5,
I can still play C3.
And I'm never able to play
And-
C5.
Right, and the 3 pawns are neutralizing the 4.
And if you don't play C4, let's go back a couple. If you don't play C4,
then
you play A4, it's automatic. Then you automatically get B5 and C5, and we get it. So
You don't have time, right? So you need to play.
If Black is given the time, to get A5, B5, and C5, then he can get his pawns
then
going.
the pawn majority will land.
Right.
So that's an interesting fact to note because it's not the rook ending changes things dramatically, obviously, because as you're sacrificing pawns, Black could have just accept them and say, yeah, I'll take one, and then my rook gets a B file, and I'll use the rook. But king and pawn endings would be critical because if I know you can't create a passed pawn and I have the technique immediately, I go C4, C3, you're frozen. and now it's time for me to go kill you with my 2-1 on the other side.
Right.
Or just use the 2-1 as a distraction and then
Right.
go run and gobble up all your pawns on the other side, right? So so we know it's those are the kind of things you always like, those conceptions to put in your pocket.
Right.
You just automatically know. That 4 against this 3, I know how to neutralize it automatically. This is how you do it, and that's going to allow me to play a certain way. Of course, once you start adding pieces, that changes as well. But the pure king and pawn ending is where the knowledge we just said would be the absolutely most useful.
Now, conceptually, another opportunity, perhaps, of getting counterplay, it depends on how white is doing his kingside play. So you could play for b5, rook b8, rook b6, rook a6, right? And the other play that I was playing for was c5, which keeps your majority alive. You could still be playing for b5 and a5. You don't lose anything with c5. And I was playing for this line of counterplay.
It's a lot of moves. 1, 2,
I know,
3
it's a lot of moves.
To what white's doing.
White's play is pretty straightforward. He's going to go h5, king g2, king g3, and just keep going on the king side.
And that's exactly
what does
why
the engine, by the way, say about all of this?
Slight edge for white.
After what move for black?
We're at this position, right? h4.
Right.
Here. Only a slight edge for white, and given black as the line actually just discussed. Look at that. Rook up and king to e8, allowing this Maginot line. We talk about crossing, of course, the famous Maginot line in France. The French tried to use to separate themselves from the Nazis. Didn't work out very well historically, but at any rate, this is now this point, and white will play king to g2.
Right.
And the engine is giving rook to d8.
Right.
Natural activity. King to g3.
Right.
And essentially trying to get counterplay with this move. King h4, although rook f2 looks quite natural as well. Well, rook f2, rook d1. Well, then I'd play that way if that's how you want to play. And now something like king h4 and push. This is not going to be easy. The engine's still only giving a slight edge. This
Which
looks
is
like exactly what we want.
I mean, it's remarkable. Once you get your king to g5 into g6,
really good
you
about
don't
this
say
position.
A slight edge. You say it's overwhelming.
Look at this bar. This bar should be up here. It looks like, but somehow the engine feels like it can still hold this position. King h4, c5. What are you hoping for? I just want to keep playing.
d6.
Sorry.
Yeah. C5,
right.
king g5, rook d6.
Rook d6.
You can't allow king g6. You just resign it.
And if I play rook h1, engine still doesn't care.
Rook a6.
b6. Okay, the engine's being stupid. You can play a move like that. Oh, king f7. Look,
you crossed the line now.
I just managed to cross the line. Although, hold on, we're seeing an endgame.
No. Rook g6 check is a surprise.
Oh, sorry. All right. So how do we? Oh, so then how do we make progress here?
That's why the engine thinks it's okay.
Stubborn engine. Yeah,
Stubborn
definitely.
engine.
Finding a way, giving us everything, and then still finding a way to stop it when the time comes. So again, it's the point we made about the pair of rooks, right? Remember, I liked having a couple of rooks on the board. Once a pair of rooks come off, then it's harder for you to figure out how to get what you need going. And remember we mentioned, by the way, that this idea, can I make a pass pawn? Can I make a pass pawn? It's important because, okay, you can play rook g6 here, so it's a bad move, but I want to just get to some ending like this one, right? Something like this.
Okay.
Well, I guess I can't play that move. What else could I play? b5?
Yeah.
No way.
b5 makes
sense.
Because
and then push.
a5.
And then a5. But
king h7.
No, but king h7 in that position. So I have to play king g8 right now.
Right.
Okay, and now the fact that I can make a pass pawn, this is the ending we were talking about. The fact that I can actually create the pass pawn, white's in trouble. Is that true?
Wait a minute. Why can you create the pass pawn, Maurice? After c4,
I just played.
c4, you go c6. I get it. Okay.
No, c4, I just play c6, right?
Yeah.
So now white is
g6?
thirsting to come on this side, because if you play this move, I can play here.
Right.
And you come over.
And now you got a4,
and now I play here. And
whoops.
Pass pawn's on its way.
Right.
And we have to actually figure out how to compete against this. This is what we wanted to know, how to compete against it. King G8, no, B5, excuse me, B5 in this position. B5, G5, King G8. And the C4 move doesn't help because of C6. And now we're going to play for this, push, etc. So it's actually quite easy to grade the pass pawn for black if you don't initially play C4 very quickly.
Right.
Which puts us all the way back here. Here, rook D6. Should we play C4 now? But that's its own thing.
Well, I like
trade off a pair of rooks. How do you get through, Yaz?
Yeah, I liked everything that we did for white there.
We're right here
for the longest time. But I think black has to play this move, rook H8, H5, king E8 kind of business. I wasn't even actually sure that king E8 was forced. I must say, wait a minute, where was I? H5. I actually thought that C5 was more or less the way to go with the rook, swinging its way across. I didn't understand why king E8.
Well,
you're losing the timing with king E8.
The reason I wanted to play this is because I feel like...
Now you can get your rook to D8?
That wasn't the reason why. The reason why was I felt a second rook, a pair of rooks, helps white.
Okay.
I don't know why that just was there in my head, but I felt like if you have rooks on the board, you want to get rid of a pair of rooks because it becomes harder to support the pawns and to keep the pressure going and to keep even mating ideas and activity. White wants as much activity as possible.
So you think it's in black's favor to get
a pair of rooks off?
Get
Absolutely.
a pair of rooks off.
But
okay.
But I didn't know I could defend against these stupid pawns until the engine showed it could put a rook on D6.
Right.
That's interesting because then you could get your counterplay another way. You could play for the same counterplay with C5, etc. If your rook is on D6.
So you're forcing me to ask a question. Should I not maintain the four rooks?
Right. Right. But now I can be active myself. So rook E3, for example, is very direct.
Rook E3 is a very direct.
Not rook E4.
Oh, sorry.
I was playing rook E3.
Rook E3, sorry, is a very direct move. I agree with that. Is it a threat to capture? I suppose it is. Could I ask the question? Do you want to give up the E file and take a lot of pawns? I always think that if I can get this one pawn, this one G7 pawn, and you get all my queenside pawns.
Yeah, see, I don't like your rooks. Again, it's like those stupid rooks are on the board, and they're going to work really well together.
I'm thinking that, you could take my whole queenside.
But you should go to F4 because if you go to H4, I always have that G6 idea, which is kind of annoying.
Sorry.
A little bit of a party pooper. King H4, G6.
In this case.
Yeah, I think that, you want two pass pawns, right?
For sure.
Unless you can, try to mate me somehow, but
I might, yeah.
Whereas if you go King F4, isn't it all the same without allowing, now G6, I just take it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that G-pawn is actually really, really, really dangerous.
And well, also because not only do I have two G-pawns and not one, which is a nice little loaded gun, but on top of that, I can also use the G-pawn as a shield for my king, right, when I go to, G5 or G6.
Well, also, in that line, your rook's doubled on the 7th rank.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I'm trying to not
avoid
see
as
happen
knockoff.
at all costs. So when the rook went back to F5,
right,
keeping rooks was a really important point. Now I have to figure out how to deal with it. Maybe rook E3 was a bad move. Let's try your rook E4.
Yeah, that was what I was more fearful of, was rook E4. Maybe, sorry, Maurice, maybe I just start like this. Rook here. If you play rook E3, isn't it actually just kind of a transposition?
Yes, no, that's clearly a transposition.
Which is maybe not what you're
Nakamura is really tanking here, guys.
Yeah.
He's tanked for a couple moments, and I think that's actually a great sign. He's sensing the critical moments.
Well, this
A
H4.
great sign for who?
Well, for Nakamura,
it is a key moment.
it just goes to show how elite he is. You know that he in these defensive skills that a lot of players go down in these situations. I'm not saying he's going to save it, but he knows the moment. On F5, he also went into a 10-minute thing.
Yeah, well,
He senses the danger.
Oh, without question, yes. Mighty Sense is very alert here. Okay, so like the problem as I see it is if you let White achieve G4 and H5, there's this really, really big problem that the king may come in. And if I were in Black shoes, I would really be analyzing Rook H8 and C5 as well as G6. To my mind, this move G6 is like the crucial alternative.
Rook H8's on the board.
He did play Rook H8.
To stop
After
Black.
a very long think, and H5 immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maxime just keeping on the pressure. By the way, when Hikaru, there's this long think, wrong think idea, but that's not always the case. Hikaru's pretty notable mistake yesterday was A4. He played that move in just over a minute.
In this Grunfeld ending.
Yeah, the one where after A4 gave Maxime all these great possibilities.
Right.
With Bishop C4, threatening Bishop B3.
Exactly.
That move was played pretty quickly.
And that was that Rook A2 stuff, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Let's go to that position again.
H5. What do we got? King E8, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And your Rook.
Okay.
We tried a lot of pushes. You played Rook F4.
I did.
The
Okay.
one Rook move we didn't try was Rook E2.
Rook E2.
When I play those Rook moves, you just calmly brought your king into the game.
Right.
But what if we don't allow your king in? You can't play G5. If you play Rook back to F7, we're going to play Rook back to E7.
G5, Rook takes H5 is an oopsie daisy.
That looks like something you don't want to do. Although you're not. That's not going to work. He's going to double rooks on the 7th against you.
Rook F7, Rook E7 just repeats.
Yes.
So that's nothing extra special. Do I gain a tempo, Maurice, by offering a rook trade in this way? Or this king and pawn endgame?
Starting to look at that king and pawn ending again.
Yeah.
Is it?
And he's played king E8, by the way, as
he's going into the line.
Hikaru. So he's heading straight into our main line.
Interesting understanding. He's definitely studied this,
and this is where again I've been playing Rook F5, Rook F4, Rook F3, and Rook F2 by the time the broadcast is over. I mean, I'll have looked at every single line. So one more look. So you're saying after I drop my rook back, we should have been concentrating on Rook E2 to stop the king. Okay, so how would it go, Maurice, after Rook F2?
Looks like you have to trade.
Okay, and you brought my king one step closer. King E7, Rook H6. Now here, I'm assuming you don't want to get into a straight king and pawn ending. Like this is the problem here, as I see it, is I'll use my H6 pawn as a distraction while I'm getting my king all the way to the queen side.
This is so lost. I don't understand why the engine is not just giving a completely lost position.
It doesn't see beyond this horizon, right? It's the horizon problem.
Yes, because it's just
it's
so
busted.
lost.
Yeah, it's completely okay. So I'm assuming that's really lost.
All right, so King E7.
Yeah, King E7 is fine. King here.
Trade of rooks instantly, by the way. No finesse.
Okay,
Trade
MVL
rooks
just
straight
said,
into the position.
I don't need any, as you say, finesse. I'm just going to get my king up the board, and I'm going to go for King G3, King H4, and King
But we
G5.
know how to defend against that.
Well, the way we defended last time was we put
Just
our rook to
rook D6.
D8 and rook to D6. I'm not sure I understand why you're not playing rook H6 and C5, by the way. Why do we need to play rook D8?
I think you get immediate counterplay against the pawns with rook.
Well, I don't want to play
It's
rook
the same
D2.
position. Isn't it the same speed? Because your rook's not going after the. If you play rook H6 C5, you're not really going after my A pawn. I
Why
think maybe
not?
that's what you're after, right?
Why not? Rook, king, push.
Push, king.
King. So I could have my rook on D6, or I could have my pawn on C5 and B5, or okay. Let's go. Let's just have a look. King, right?
Correct.
What else? Did I do?
G6 played by Nakamura.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
A move that I had mentioned earlier, so that's
that changes.
that's a bad sign.
Whoa, 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 no, no, whoa, whoa, whoa! G6.
Was this a line?
Ruh-roh.
We were
What
looking at
is
this
that?
exact thing right after
Okay,
pawn
so-
takes G6.
Yeah, this is where you're right, Jen. This is where we had tried rook G8, rook F7, and we weren't too excited.
I didn't like the fact that he kept that second G pawn on the board. I didn't mind losing the pawns on the queen side because I feel like the king, the white pawn structure is so compromised that
Gotcha.
you're gonna get chances.
Right.
My problem is that stupid G pawn.
Right.
That one in the back.
This guy.
This guy is real and a real distraction, but king in front, rook.
So
But obviously-
what line is Hikaru calculating?
I think I know what's
Okay,
So
what's going on?
So takes rook G8.
Rook George.
You have to. There's nothing
Yeah.
stopping.
Well, there's rook F8 also, but okay, rook G8 you
And
said.
now after rook F7 check,
That's
we
an
were
easy
looking
check.
at king E6, I think. But king D6 is another possibility. But
Well,
we
then
were
we were
looking
afraid of G7.
Right,
Okay.
that's true. So king E6 was what we were looking at,
Okay.
preventing G7 with the idea that after rook C7.
So takes.
Takes, and now I want to hold the guy. And now I want to do something here, right?
Okay, rook G5.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Rook takes. Now
Now
stop
rook
for a
C5,
second.
right? Or
'Cause-
A5, huh? Rook
Because you've
A5.
got two
Aha.
interesting choices.
Yes. This
No, I'm not giving you a pass pawn. Just
rook A5.
Rook A5.
Now, here we go. If my king gets in front of the pawn, remember we were arguing about getting in front of the
Right,
pawn?
if your king was on G6 or H6
Yes,
before.
you're not cutting me off. If my king gets in front of the pawn, how do you eject me from in front of this pawn? And if you're not winning the pawns on the queen side, how do you win the game?
And if you play rook C7 here,
I'll be
Rook
defensive.
C7,
just
king
king
D6.
D6, right?
Because you got this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, but wait. Let's hunt this one down for a second. See.
King over.
Well, if you go king over to stop me,
Well,
to get
now there's
rook
rook
C7.
C7.
That's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
where that makes a little bit more
So
sense.
maybe we can just go for the pawns after king H4 to start.
That's what I was thinking.
To start rook A3 and then see how
Eat the
how
guy.
dangerous this is.
Let's say push,
And we do have H takes G6, by the way.
takes.
Rook G8, of course.
Okay, but this is looking very close to a draw.
Very close to a draw.
This is looking drawn.
Yeah, it is. I will
He's
give up the
sacrificing his
rook,
rook for a pawn.
for
Absolutely.
one pawn, and then it's an easy
and then
draw.
drawing
Because your
on
king
the
is
other
just
side.
too close.
Okay,
yeah.
very good. So we're
But
thinking.
this was what Naka was tanking about. He was
Yep.
calculating this long rook endgame line, making sure he was okay. And to me, it's curious that he thinks so long a couple moves before, but then when he gets closer to the position, for most people, your vision is clearer. But for Naka, I don't think it didn't matter. He did the work before.
This is one of the things that I think these great calculators, Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano, Magnus, Vichy, they just see, a straight variation many, many moves deep. And I bet you we're right that Hikaru has calculated right up to this point and beyond. And he thought that he could be forcing the draw, with some variation.
There
like
he is,
this.
rook f7, check, king e6, allowing the decimation of his queen side, or maybe a couple of pawns on that side at least. But
Right.
understanding the critical point is to not be cut off from the g-pawn with his king.
Right.
His king could cross that line,
The F line, yeah.
that F line.
Yep.
Then he will be able to defend the g-pawn quite easily. In the meantime, his active rook will look for counterplay on the other side of the board. And as long as you cannot create any kind of distraction on the queen side by white, then well, how can white win? He cannot make it happen. The rook and king will defend very nicely.
It's remarkable because the white structure on the queen side was busted up by bishop d4 takes c3 almost from the opening. The repercussions felt all the way to this endgame, and if that b2 pawn was on b2 and not c3, I think after rook takes c7, it'd be a winning position.
Oh no, you'd be crying if you.
Yeah, it'd be a one position, that doubled pawn. So we're looking at rook takes c7, rook takes g6.
Rook c7 has occurred. Rook g6 has occurred.
King g3, key move rook g5, rook takes, rook a5. Now, it's not a nice way of treating a rook.
Yeah.
But the rook on b3.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. And
I think the king
no,
would just...
no way to progress once you put that rook on.
Exactly. The rook would go to a4, the king would go to f6, and then what is the rook doing on b3, this very, very passive rook?
Masterfully done by Hikaru to deeply understand this and just realize he had to get his play even at the cost of a pawn. The queen side by
Let's
white
be clear, it's a cost of 2 pawns.
And in this case, again, you're correct. Because of a second pawn, the queen side is so busted up, but more critically, getting the king in front of the pawn was the primary focus, number one. It's just that fact. Once he's able to do that, it's too much work trying to push your g-pawn forward. That is well calculated.
Impressive.
Well calculated.
Definitely, very impressive. And we've been talking about the extraordinary defensive precision. I mean, these guys, there's no question, Hikaru's worse. But he sees this way of drawing the game by going through this very, very long calculation, and he says, I can draw that rook ending, and he immediately goes for it.
By the way, it again, there's some understanding that goes on. So I had a feel for this position in terms of I wanted a pair of rooks off the board. Right? That I knew having 2 rooks felt very annoying and looked like it was more pressure. I wanted to get my king in front of that pawn you're going to get, that passed pawn eventually, right? That's general understanding, right? You know enough,
right?
But to calculate it from step one, not just this is what I want to, but no, go all the way and say, oh, and this and this and this, and when we get to this moment when you take on b7 and you try rook c7, I have this. That's where the separation is. The deep calculating ability that takes it 10, 12, 15 moves deep to say, we know what you generally want, but how do you execute it in a forcing way? And it's something about Hikaru we mention all the time. When he defends, he looks at positions as problems to be solved. He doesn't want to just sit there. He wants to find a concrete path to prove the truth of the position. And he looked and found the forcing move g6, and he didn't hesitate from playing the move. He didn't get fearful of the fact that he's about to give the guy a clear pass g-pawn. Remember, we said, whoa, pass g-pawn, rook on the 7th. Wait a minute, the rook's going hog wild. Do you really want to go there? Hikaru went straight there and found a clean draw at the very end. That's some really impressive stuff.
Yeah, I was just bringing up this position. I think in 2050, in the children's scholastic school books, they're going to use this example, and it will be like e6. Black's worse, but show the forcing variation to a draw. To a draw. Show the forcing. And F5. So the first thing you say is the minor piece favors white, so you get rid of the minor piece. Then you get into this 4-rook ending, and you sacrifice 2 pawns.
Right, force the rook, get a pair of rooks off, sacrifice the pawn.
And you need to see the good move rook g5 that Hikaru was about to play after king g3.
Exactly, and find the good move here, rook g5, and then
this will
followed
be
by rook
this is an
a5.
instructive endgame for sure. This will be in books.
Yeah.
This will be in books, deservedly, but
the children's
the children are not going to find the forcing line. That ain't.
No,
humans are not going to get.
I don't know. Pragnananda.
21st century.
22nd century.
I'll check for some digital device that's been implanted in the brain.
I'm writing the children's scholastic school book right now for the 23rd century. You know, and this will be one of our prime examples.
And I think the other example is that made in 36 from Fabiano's
Oh,
game
right.
set.
Oh, that will be very easy. That will be
gimmies.
That will be chapter
I
1 and 2.
Humans evolve that rapidly. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, the made in 36 piece of cake.
But by then, chess will be boring to those kids.
I don't know.
Chess will have to be played on a 120, like a 16 by 16, you know, with all those squares and extra pieces. Hawks will have to land on the board. All kinds of
Star Trek fifth dimensional
right.
chess.
We have three levels of chess. That's a whole. That's
nice.
That's
nice.
after this game has been solved. And
wow.
You know, that said, the way these guys are playing, they're making this chessboard of ours look smaller.
Yeah.
They're making it look like we know how. You thought I was in trouble.
But
and who would argue? Was Vachier-Lagrave going for the win today?
Of course.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Was he giving it at all? Yes.
Did he have a significant
Did he have
advantage?
an advantage? Something
Yes.
of an advantage, yes. But was it significant enough? No. Was Naka just going to fold? No. We might have had, let's say, Lasker-Steinitz. Lasker might have played this ending out. Masterpiece. Look at the 2 against 1 on the king side, the way he did against Steinitz back in the 1800s. And we all went, bravo, this is how you win in the Ruy Lopez. You get your majority and you milk and you win. Not today's guys. Today's guys are like, no, we've seen all of that. We know what's coming, and we know how to put up resistance.
Exactly.
And that is chess in the 21st century that differs now from the days of old.
Exactly. Yeah. And these players are obviously standing on the shoulders of these giants who have taught them all of these things, and they've taken their lessons to heart, Jennifer. They really, this is really, really impressive stuff. Again, the purists in us can applaud and go, wow, I mean, these guys are really, really good. And yet, we want to see blood too, though. I mean, we need victories.
This is so artistic. This is so beautiful. The defense was so magnificent. You might as well start writing books on defense. The art of defense. And,
they have.
Right,
and it's called The Art of Defense, too.
Very few books on the art of defense. Most of the books you see are puzzles on mate in 3. Even you don't see Puzzle Rush giving, the great defensive idea you need to find right now. Right. It's all about that mate, baby. It's all about mate in 2. It's all about winning.
Yep.
We thrive on that. And to get excited about defense, it's not easy. It's clear that he played masterfully, beautiful, artistic, wonderful. How many of us are still going to be like, whoa, did you see that?
Yeah.
That was so cool what he did. That was great.
Yeah.
Well, it needs a rebrand. I remember
Yes,
one of the old
rebrand.
One of the old tactics books I had a chapter on pursuit. That was like all about
pursuit,
finding sneaky stalemates and perpetuals.
Ah.
Yeah, I think that could use a rebrand. Pursuit's not a good word, but we got to find something
better. But yeah, I mean, like I'm a big NFL football fan, and defense wins championships and stuff like that. But you're right. I mean, we have been schooled on the many checkmates and stuff like that. We're not been really schooled on this kind of an endgame, how to save a 2 pawns down.
Can we see one checkmate? Can we just see one kingside attack?
Tomorrow.
Just one. Can we just, in a classical game, see a guy weave a sacrifice, followed by a pawn sack, followed by a piece sack, followed by another piece sack,
Well, we got the Karen's
followed by a
Cup.
queen sack,
Yeah.
followed by mating with a pawn. Can we see one of those? Like, is the elevation of attack can it get to that level where your sacrifices are so mystifying that the guy doesn't spot it weeks in advance and then prepare some exchanges where he gives you a pawn and gets your rook and pawn ending, which he knows how to draw?
Yeah.
Well,
You're asking an awful lot for your $1. You better keep your $1.
We do have Karen's Cup coming in February.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, boy. Looking forward to the women
The
slugging
ladies,
it out.
that women's championship, while we were watching the London World Championship match and seeing that knockout event that the ladies brought, there was energy, boy. That was fun.
Yeah, and
that was great.
June ended up winning.
And the must-win game,
Yeah.
game 4 with the black pieces. Wow. Okay, sorry.
We're just going to take a quick break as
All right.
we learn more about our sponsors here at the London Chess Classic and Grand Chess Tour, this time the Lohia Foundation.
I think many people don't know that cataract blindness in Indonesia is #2 highest in the world. This is no longer a health problem, but a social problem. Whether you're a king or you're a beggar, you deserve equal quality eye care.
It all started because of Dr. Rohit, who runs the Tilganga Eye Care Hospital in Nepal. And I read about him, I was following his story, and I was extremely fortunate to meet him in Singapore. I think that's where our journey began.
All right. How many fingers am I holding up? 3.
And he inspired us to consider looking at cataract as one of the healthcare initiatives for our foundation. I often say we are changing lives because all these people who walk into our camp who are blind and leave the next day with eyesight, I have personally heard so many stories from each camp where truly lives are changed.
Terima kasih. Sudah 2 tahun. Terima kasih ya.
Bahagia, betul. Hampir saya sudah mati, kembali lagi hidup.
Cantik ya, Neng juga. Amin, terima kasih ya. Enak seperti baru lagi penglihatan. Gincling.
Jarinya.
Enak nikmat lah, sekali susahin begini. Nikmat dari Tuhan. Biasanya orang 4 meter tuh nggak itu, cuman rambut gitu. Jadi nggak jelas. Sekarang mah nggak kelihatan tuh orang lalu lalang itu.
Mbak, kelihatan ini? Ketinggali jelas. Ini, lihat ini Bu. Ini sabaraha. Iki satu.
Iki cucu emak. Mau bisa ngeren di ka emak. Ayeuna santas dioperasi. Ke kemanapun ku emak dikejar terus.
How do you feel? Hari ini happy?
I'm very happy now. That's maybe this. My eyes all clears. Yeah.
Oh, very
Not
nice.
dark. Yeah. Very nice.
I'm so happy to say that in this cataract camp, there were more than 13 volunteers who flew in from different parts of the world. Just by word of mouth, we were able to inspire even 13 people. Restoring eyesight is such an immediate effect. They come back the next day and they're able to see.
Pengen suatu waktu mau membanggakan mama bapak sama mau sekolah yang pintar.
Oh ya. Neng yang cantik ini juga ya kelihatan. Anak muda, udah bisa
Anda bisa ikut cantik, kelihatan. This is life-changing experience. You see a person blind today, and tomorrow, the person can see again. I mean, what more can you ask for? What other miracle can you wish for?
Welcome to the chess capital of the United States. The St. Louis Chess Campus in the heart of the vibrant Central West End has established itself as a premier global destination for chess and is comprised of 2 unique nonprofit institutions. The Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis is recognized as the top chess facility in the world and plays host to all major tournaments, including the U.S. Chess Championships and the Sinkfield Cup, one of the strongest chess tournaments globally. Tournaments are broadcast online to more than 150 countries, led by an expert commentary team of grandmasters. The Chess Club is an educational organization committed to promoting the game of chess, with a specific focus on bringing the benefits of chess to children throughout the St. Louis area. Research shows children who play chess exhibit improved analytical skills and increased confidence. The Chess Club is highly engaged with the local community, bringing scholastic chess programs to more than 100 schools, providing hundreds of classes each week. Directly across the street from the Chess Club is the World Chess Hall of Fame. This one-of-a-kind cultural institution invites visitors to experience chess in imaginative ways and is home to the U.S. and World Chess Halls of Fame. Cutting-edge exhibitions feature rare, historic chess artifacts paired with world-class art. Innovative programming explores the intersection of chess, art, and culture. Visitors can enjoy interactive programs designed around the exhibitions and monthly music in the galleries. The World Chess Hall of Fame is nothing you expect and everything you love. 3 different galleries and a premier gift shop highlight the culture, history, and creativity behind the game. Come visit, play chess, leave enriched. To learn more about the St. Louis Chess Campus, visit stlchesscampus.org.
And we are back for our coverage of the Grand Chess Tour Finals at the London Chess Classic. And, of course, we have this one game underway between Hikaru Nakamura and MVL.
The finalists.
Where we've been seeing Nakamura play this really precise defense. And I think that Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez in London also wants to weigh in on this.
All right. Hello, Alejandro. What's happening?
Well, thank you, Yasser. We're here live from the Olympia Center. It's, of course, been a day about just one game, the other one ending in such a quick draw. Perhaps a little bit about the format. We've seen that people like to make that draw just before the quicker time controls. They don't want to expend the energy. And Levon Aronian, he said it very clearly. Mathematically, he's the favorite in Rapid and Blitz. He wants to take his chances there. I do have a question about the other position, though, guys. I don't have an engine strong enough to really answer for me. And I haven't been able to really discuss it with any of the super GMs around. In this position, Maxime played Rook F7, almost like if it was the only move in the position, played very, very quickly. But I still haven't been able to figure out why not play some combination of King G3, Rook F5, or the direct Rook F5, takes, and King G3. And the simple idea is to push the pawn to G5. That destroys your idea of the defense with the Rook being under the pawn. If you play King E6, I thought simply King F4 was extremely dangerous. This Rook is just basically trapped. And if you play Rook D6, G5, I wasn't really sure how to draw this position because the engine wants to play Rook D2 for a while, but then realizes the Rook F2 is a lost pawn endgame. So I didn't really figure it out. Perhaps you guys over at the studio with a stronger engine and more analysts can tell me a little bit more about the truth of the position.
Well, thank you for the question, Alejandro. I was about to say, dude, you were just at Google headquarters. Give AlphaZero a quick call and just check on it. I think we had some ideas of C5 and Rook A6, maybe something similar to game. Maurice, what about that move, Rook F5?
You know, it's a very good point. I'm glad Alejandro brought it up because I had seen it and seen the engine suggest the move, Alejandro, and then he so quickly went into the Rook F7 line that I just forgot to mention that this was another possibility and a way to avoid that forcing endgame line where white is ahead and the engine feels has a real more significant edge than he does in this position. 0.77, that's a lot by our book. Now, the engine also saying that you can't get in your move C5, Yaz. Oh, obviously there's a quick capture on the C5 square. Maybe this is how he's going to have to defend, but here the engines give white a real edge. We have to really dip into this position to see whether or not it's a winning edge. How would you proceed in this position if you're going to try to execute? You can't play C5 and get your rook over without giving up the C7 pawn. I don't think you want to do that in this position. So it is a challenging line. This way of playing is different, and Rook D6 might be the only defense now.
Right.
The same idea going in this direction, allowing this move G5 on the board. And you can weigh in whenever you want. How to
maybe
defend.
Rook D1?
Rook D1.
G6, I got Rook G1 check. So,
of course.
Right.
So we're going to go up the board.
So it's something similar to the game, but a vastly improved version.
Maybe Rook D2 now?
Yeah, last time I was afraid of Rook F2.
Rook F2
so
would have been a problem, but this
right.
move. But even here, the engine's giving, well, G6. And Rook C2, and now you have to be very watchful because, well, Rook F7 it's giving, King E6, and now Rook.
Whoa. This looks very similar to our position, our game position.
Right. So that doesn't look like it's getting anywhere. How do you win?
How do you win?
Back here.
But
Alejandro,
I think that this is a better,
get an opinion
a much better winning attempt. Once we saw what Hikaru did with Rook G5, then we thought it was a draw.
That's like what do you call it?
The 20/20 hindsight or something?
No, moral victory or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, it's like a better.
I was a piece up when we agreed to a draw. It was a king and knight versus king.
You got so lucky.
Yeah, right.
Who cares if whatever
it's a
is
draw
is
a draw. Yeah,
I don't care however it works out. So
right,
there are some. There's defense. It's not easy to break through with the limited material distribution that we have right now. What he has right now in the game,
Who's this?
It's exciting to see your pawn on G6, but it's this rook. If it can decimate this, well, if you can capture this pawn, get over on this side. Sooner or later, he'll be able to capture this pawn if he can't bother you enough with checks. Bring his king this way and let his pawn be the major distraction. You're not winning this position.
A very typical theme in
King
rook
F8,
endgames.
by the way, on the board.
King F8 after rook A2, and now
We're expecting captures.
captures and A3 has been played.
Rook takes A3, and black is ready to give away his rook for the G pawn, and then use his king to escort his C pawn up the board. Now let's take a look. Can we do it? How would it go, Jen?
So
we go
G7.
G7, and now we can
start with a check, right?
start with a check. I think that's very important, in fact. Check, king, rook. Draw it once.
Yeah, it looks like that. You mean just
Because
by repetition, right?
Because you've got to win.
No, you can win the rook by playing rook E7 check.
But rook
But
takes
by the way,
B7.
they did play
B7
rook takes B7.
Just makes more sense for the moment. But just going down the line.
Sorry, the pawn is on G6.
Yes.
So he's just played rook takes A3.
And now rook takes B7
Rook
would
takes
happen
B7.
instead of your G7.
Okay. Well, now I'll get in the, oops, excuse me. I'll get in a mouse slip. Let me get in a check.
Right, king E8.
King E8. Let me...
push is forced, pretty much.
Push is forced, and let's go with this guy.
And this is where you can see the ending. Well, let's take on A7 first.
Yeah, and I will
Push.
go escort my...
Well, you didn't create resistance. Play C4 instead, just to show this.
Well,
point.
no, I remember a horrifying game from an Olympiad where Anna Zatansky, she pushed her pawn without escorting it with her king, and then her king got cut off.
Right.
Cut off.
Like, for instance, if the king were already on F8 and you tried to play C4.
Then a move like rook A5 would cut the king. So my instinct is to just play king D5.
Understood. But let's play C4 just to make this point.
C4.
Because this, as far as White's concerned, White has no way of promoting this pawn. Period. Without there's only
check.
Right. So this is the technique I want to show. So now, but even here, a check.
I've got a threat.
You can block. So now takes is forced.
Yes, precisely. Takes is forced. And now you're good. Easy draw. Easy draw moves.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
I disagree with that. This is a done deal.
So, okay, hold on. Let me just refresh so I can just get the exact game position. And we are here. Rook takes B7 was the last move. So we are expecting a check, king to E8, and then rook to G3, and then it's all about pushing this past pawn.
Indeed.
There's another line. Rook check.
Okay, rook check, yeah.
Rook F7.
Rook F7.
And he has checked, by the way. Rook F3 check played by Hikaru.
Rook G8. Rook G3.
He has played rook F7. Or,
sorry. He's looking to play it. There you go.
Yes.
This is
rook
efficient.
F7.
And now rook. Whoa. Oh.
Rook to B3.
Yes, rook B3.
So
played.
he's threatening rook check and forcing the king to step in front of the
White to move and help mate in one.
King E8.
I sensed where you were going with that.
Oh, G7 too. I'm sorry, I picked the ugly one.
Yeah, no, this is more pretty.
Much prettier.
Much prettier.
Yeah. There was two.
Oh yeah, that's an auto update. Sorry, that's not the game position.
He played rook to C7.
He played.
But for Hikaru fans, that was pretty sweet.
He played rook back to C7, or he took a pawn.
Rook to C7.
He put
Rook to C7. Okay.
This is a small joke because the game is totally drawn.
Now we can check king and
Yeah, wait, what did Hikaru play?
No,
He played Rook C3 and Rook C7 was played.
Oh, okay.
This is the current position, and I was just
Yeah,
saying
and it's Hikaru on move again, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, White is all about trying to promote his pawn, so I was thinking, okay, let's force White's king to step in front of the pawn, so I can gain some time.
By the way, the way Hikaru played, it's just one of various ways to draw this position.
Really?
Because he could have also...
He did check, by the way.
He could have also just sacrificed his rook. It's not...
Yeah, I mean, he's way in time.
Way in time. But at the moment, he's now making it difficult for White to push this pawn, so he played check, King G7.
Right.
And King D5.
Exactly.
And now Maxime, looking for something to do, is now taking the A-pawn. That is just accepting a draw easily.
And
Hikaru
C5
has
quickly.
no doubt
pushing
this pawn, that this position is easily drawn. You're not tricking him.
Okay.
He's sacrificing his rook at any moment.
I'm going to say that the players are going to play to king versus king.
Yep.
Why not? That way they don't have to come up with some repetition, you know?
Right. And
It's
after
almost as
C4, G3, here, queen. Something of this nature is what we are about to see.
Good prediction, Yaz. Will you get it exact?
No, I suspect here I made a mistake. I suspect that we would see this. I remember it was during the Deep Blue matches, and I asked Gary Kasparov, why did the computer promote his pawn to a rook and not a queen?
Mm-hmm.
And Gary says, well, from the computer's point of view, when you promote the pawn to a queen and you allow rook takes queen,
you lose material.
You lose material. So you promote it to a rook, and
and there you have it.
There you have it.
Your prediction, Maz.
Oh, they actually reached the exact position
that you had in mind.
I had in mind.
C1 and G8, a draw to the king versus king, draw to the death, or not the death.
Not the death. Okay, again, not the result we wanted to, but simply, hats off. Sterling defense.
Yeah, it's very well done by
Hikaru.
Nakamura. And as Maurice was pointing out, goes to show that those calculating skills are not just for bullet chess and puzzle rush. They're also for saving the day in a tough endgame.
And there we have it. 2 draws from each side in the classical portions. We now move to the Rapid and Blitz tomorrow to decide who will be champion of the Grand Chess Tour 2018.
That's going to be so exciting.
Yeah,
we will.
Watching Vachier-Lagrave and Nakamura go at it in Rapid and Blitz with this format we see in front of us here, that's going to be so much fun.
Okay, question for our panel. Where will the Grand Chess Tour winner come from? Will it be from the Rapids or the Blitz portion?
Good question. Blitz. Well, the first
you're going to need the Blitz. You're going to need the Blitz at some point. You're going to have to. You cannot slip up in the Blitz.
But 4 points is a big
edge.
We saw that in the Maurice. We saw that in the semifinals.
Exactly.
Both Maxime and
for both.
That's if you get. First of all, you got to get the 4 points. You have to win 1 and draw 1. Doubt you're going to win 2.
Yeah.
No, win 1 and draw 1.
Win 1 and draw 1. So that's for starters.
Right.
And second of all, you can't slip up in the Blitz. And I think that...
Well, you can slip up once, but you can't slip up twice.
So one little hiccup, but 2 games, guys back in business. That's 4 games to catch up. So I think that the differential was more severe in the other time control, where you weren't talking about the numbers 1 and 3 in the world.
Yeah.
Right? They were clearly better than their opponents, right? Clearly better. If you had to make a bet, you bet Maxime, you bet Hikaru, and you collect your money.
Yeah.
That was a given. But now, do you want to bet? Like, who do you want to bet for in this setup? Right. Maxime versus Hikaru. This is not an easy bet.
Guys, in the UK Knockout Championship, it was with Luke McShane and Mickey Adams. I believe Mickey Adams lost both rapid games. He was down by 8 points, and in the Blitz, he won the first 3 Blitz games. Ooh, so he's only 2 points behind, but then Luke McShane won the final blitz game to win the match and get to the finals in the UK knockout.
That could happen.
Yeah, so
that's kind of an extreme case.
An extreme case, but it would be let's face it, it would be great to see the Grand Chess Tour decided in the blitz, where MVL is the #1 rated player in the world, but I want to bet on Naka in the blitz.
Imagine it's game 4. It comes down to it's all tied up, and game 4 finishes it off.
Well, I think we're going to. I think we're going to go for an interview or two. Your thoughts, Jen? You didn't get in there on how you see tomorrow playing out.
Oh, yeah, I think it's extremely close. Really a pick-em between Maxime and Naka. If Naka goes 1-1 in the rapid, anything can happen. I guess maybe Maxime's a slight favorite on paper.
On paper?
Yeah, because of the blitz rating and then also the rapid. But
how do they match up in the...
Naka's been in great form, hasn't he?
I thought that in the blitz on the Grand Chess Tour, wasn't Hikaru better in the rapid but worse in the blitz?
I think that's right. I think Maxime had the edge in the blitz, and Naka had like a 2-1 in the rapid.
Something like that. Okay.
Yeah,
there it is.
A big edge for Maxime in the blitz.
In the blitz, 1.5, 4.5 in the blitz, Maurice.
1-1 matchups matter, but I would also like to see if we can bring up these graphics. Has Vachier-Lagrave ever finished ahead, or did he finish ahead in any single event? We know the answer is no for Paris. We know the answer is no for St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, because Naka won both of those. But what about Leuven? Did Vachier-Lagrave, they finished 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Where was Naka in that, Wesley? So if we can pull up that graphic.
Wesley was the winner.
Wesley was clearly the winner. I don't even remember who number 2 was.
Well, it was Levon.
I think Karyakin was number 2.
Sergey, yes.
But now we go.
Here we go.
And there it is. Vachier-Lagrave did finish ahead of Nakamura in one of the rapid and blitz
combination hybrid rapid blitz events.
Although Naka won Paris, and I think that Vachier-Lagrave finished just second to him in St. Louis. No, am I wrong about that? I feel like it was the case. If we can get that graphic, I think he came in second, or was it Levon who came in second? Well, let's get there. It is. He did come in second. He came in second.
Clear second. That's
so
right.
Look at them following each other very, very closely, and we have the king of Paris and St. Louis Rapid and Blitz going into the finals. It is Hikaru Nakamura with Alejandro.
Thank you, Maurice. Here we are with Hikaru Nakamura. No classical games were decisive here in London. You were under a little bit of pressure, but it seems like you held your own today.
Yeah, Maxime surprised me with this G4 line. I mean, I had looked at this before. This 94 actually 94 was a surprise. And it was very hard because around here there were so many moves. I wasn't sure if Bishop D5 was right or 97 was right.
97 immediately here.
Yeah, I mean 97 H4 and then I don't know, like Knight D5 or Bishop D5. I mean, and Bishop G5 and Bishop F5. I saw this. I mean, I thought something like this should be okay, but it's very hard to play over the board when you're not sure. I mean, what's
something
going
like
on.
H5 and then
Knight C3.
Knight C3. Ah, okay, this is the point.
Ah, this is just complete. Yeah, okay.
Again, this is equal, right?
But yeah, okay. So this won't happen again. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I saw this idea, but I wasn't sure about it, and then I played Bishop D5, and I just miscalculated this whole line after G4, Bishop E4, Rook E4. Like 97, E6, F5. Yeah, I mean, I miscalculated that after Rook E5 I could not take on G4. Yeah, because is it H4, Bishop G5? I think it's H4 right away, right? And I mean, I should just be in trouble here, probably.
Yeah, with the bishop coming to G5, you're a little trapped.
Yeah, no. I mean, I saw something like this and I thought it was dangerous, so I played Knight D5. But even here, I didn't realize just how dangerous this really was because I thought, I mean, I should just be completely fine. But then once Maxime played Rook F5, I also wasn't sure if I should take on E6 as well. Like instead of Knight F4, Rook E6 maybe.
Rook E6
I wasn't sure. Like Bishop G3, B5. I mean, like Rook E5 or something. like, or h4. I mean, I wasn't sure about these positions, like trade, g6, h4, something like this. I mean, it's probably okay, but he can always put the bishop on d4 and go like rook f1 and maybe h5.
It seems like no matter which position you choose, you're under a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, this, objectively, I think this is probably better, because in the one that I went for, I end up in trouble, I think. Well, not trouble, but like I have to be super precise or I just lose, basically.
Right.
So rook f1, king d7, yeah, and I mean, yeah, and after h4, I started worrying, because originally I wanted to play rook h8, h5, and g6 immediately, but it doesn't quite work. Because,
g6 right here.
Yeah, because takes, rook g8, and I think it's rook d1 first, right? King e8, rook f6. Oh, I can just go rook e5 or something? Okay, I mean, what do I know? Anyway, yeah, but I mean, I saw something like this, and like I saw there's rook d4, and I didn't quite see how I was getting the pawn back, so wasn't sure, so I played king e8. I mean, I thought this was very creative what I did. Takes, king g2 and g6. And yeah, so here h6, rook g8, and here Maxime went wrong with rook f7. I mean, okay, rook f7 is completely fine, but it sort of gives away all the winning chances. Whereas rook f5, I think, is a better try, but still after rook g6, king g3, I think rook e6, I thought, was completely fine. Yeah, and like rook e2 or something. I know, then there's rook e5. Wait, I have to be careful here. Yeah, okay, rook d6.
Rook d6 instead of rook e6, or?
No, rook e6, well, actually, that's a good point, yeah. No, actually, yeah, I should go rook d6, because I let him get his king one square closer. So rook d6, g5, and like rook d2, and, I mean, rook f2. Okay, maybe this is still bad. But even here after rook d1, I'm not sure it's losing. Because it's going to be something very similar to the game where there's like king g4, rook g1, king h5, rook g3, and I'm going to get some pawns.
So king g4 here like this.
Yeah, rook g1, king h5, probably check, king g6, rook h3.
And then you start grabbing some pawns here. He might
I mean, it's a better version than he gets in the game, but I'm still not sure if it's winning, because he's going to have to check me at some point, and then I'm going to run right to like c5. So I think it's probably still holdable. I felt like they should be close to a draw, but I figured this was my best chance.
Yeah, g6 was an excellent resource. Maurice was definitely praising it using the engine, and it seemed that it just kind of held together, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky because Maxime played rook f7, and then it's, I mean, pretty routine. I don't really have any difficulties. Whereas rook f5, I still have to show some technique. So yeah, it was a good couple of moves there that I found after just kind of misplaying the middle game.
Well, definitely a good effort. You're going tomorrow in the Rapid and Blitz. Do you consider yourself a favorite?
Well, I mean, I think Maxime would agree that I tend to play better than him when we play online. Over the board, lately he's been a little bit better, so I think it's a bit of a toss-up. I don't think you can really give the advantage to either player, unlike say my match against Fabiano, or even the match between Fabiano and Levon tomorrow.
You think that Levon is just heavily favored against Fabiano tomorrow?
Yeah, Levon should win.
Levon should win. All right, well, results recently kind of indicate that way. Although Fabiano himself was saying that he has beaten some strong players, perhaps not in the last couple of months.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously he beat me in this St. Louis match like 3 years ago, I think it was. But no, I just mean I feel like Levon is a little bit more stable. I feel like Fabiano in Blitz and Rapid, he can play well at times, but he's not generally playing well in every event. It seems like he plays well or he plays badly. There's kind of no in between, whereas Levon, I think, is just a little bit more stable.
Well, thank you, Hikaru, for joining us here. Tomorrow you fight for what will be your first Grand Chess Tour title. So good luck to you.
Should be fun.
All right, and we will see Nakamura-Vachier-Lagrave here with us in just a second.
Thank you, Alejandro. Fantastic judgment there by Hikaru in understanding the rook and pawn endings and the difficulties he was facing. I think he really had a good grasp of what was going on, Jen.
That's right, and I'm not so sure he has a good grasp on tomorrow, though.
Well, he said it was a pick-em in his match, and he just saw Levon as more consistent.
Yeah, right.
Which factually is true.
For sure, but, you know.
Doesn't mean, when you say you should win, doesn't mean you will win.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very big difference in words.
Well,
but
that's why you play the game.
We saw it in the numbers. Consistency in terms of Levon this whole year, while Fabi is either in 9th place or he's up in the top half.
Right.
And he's had great results. He beat Grishchuk, for example, last year here.
Wow.
Which was a tremendous result. But it is true. It's very odd the way Fabi seems to either be spectacular or just flame out and play badly instead of just always doing the right thing. Well, we'll see if he can do it tomorrow.
Let's go to London, and MVL is with Alejandro.
Thank you, guys. Maxime, a hard-fought draw. You definitely went for it with your preparation in the Berlin. Tell us a little bit about what you expected from the opening.
Well, the opening went just as well as I could expect because Ika went deep into my preparation, and of course my position was very promising, and then I'm pretty disappointed at myself because I did what Levon did against me in game 2. I played just too fast and missed a resource.
This rook f5, you mean?
Not even rook g5, I missed rook a2 simply. I mean, like rook g2 check.
In which
at the end. Like, I mean, it might already be a draw, of course, no matter what I do, but missing this was not my highest moment.
You missed rook a2 in this position, yeah.
I mean, rook g2, rook h2.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, it might be a win. But, of course, I mean, I just played too fast, and that's not something I should have done.
Well, it's good for tomorrow.
Maybe for you. But, yeah, it's very possible that there was no win anyway. I mean, that would maybe soften the pill, but it's no excuse for what I've done.
Now, you seem to be one of the few people that keeps finding resources and keeps putting a lot of pressure in the Berlin endgame, and others kind of shy away from it.
Actually, no, because a3 was Vlad's move. So, I mean, I got to give the credit to Vladi on this one.
Kramnik, who not only invented didn't invent the Berlin, but put it at a prominent stage, and apparently also creating problems for Black himself.
Yeah.
You go tomorrow, Rapid and Blitz. You mentioned earlier that you had a bad score against Caruana online. How do you feel your chances are over the board?
I mean, I think they're pretty good, but you know, I think Ikaru's chances are also pretty good. So it will be, like you said, a toss.
A toss. All right. Well, what can we expect tomorrow? Do you think there will be a huge amount of importance and preparation in the Rapid games, or do you think people are going to just try to rest up and see what happens?
Depends. Depends on me, depends on Ikaru, depends how we feel.
Well, good luck tomorrow. Maxime, of course, this will be your first Grand Chess Tour title. You've come close. I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, definitely.
Well, thank you, Maxime. And that's it for us, guys, here from the Olympia Center in London. It's been a great series of classical chess, but no blood was spilled. We have to wait until the Rapid and Blitz to have a winner tomorrow.
That's right, Alejandro. In fact, we've had 20 straight draws from London now, with the World Championship followed by the 8. That's a huge record.
Yeah, 20.
It's a lot.
And for Fabiano, if it goes back to the Olympiad at 3, so 23 games of draws.
20, right? I mean, 19, because he didn't play all 8 of the classical draws here.
Of
He
course.
only played 4 of them. Yeah.
And it's a little unfair to Fabiano.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's be clear. It's a little unfair to Fabiano. He had a magnificent result at the Olympia. Of course. He was crushing people there. He beat Mamedjerov. He beat Anand. He beat Gelfand. He was dropping wood in that tournament. He even won a medal, right, for his performance on board 1.
Exactly.
So it's kind of unfair to count his last 3 draws when he was playing against all these top players in that event and doing extremely well. That was one of his best tournaments as well of the year, of a year of spectacular events that he has put together in classical chess. And he did draw Magnus 12 times. I mean, you want him to beat Magnus 12 times?
Right.
I mean, it's not so easy. So I don't think it's fair to show a lot of draw streak to Fabiano. It is fair to say that his Rapid and Blitz is not up to that level that his classical skills are, and I think that he will have trouble tomorrow getting 3rd place for sure. Levon should win, but you know what? That's why we play the games.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's very close, though. I think that's exaggerated, Levon's edge. I think it's closer to a toss, as we say in poker, a coin flip with perhaps Levon having the 8s and Fabi having the ace-king.
There you go.
Ace-king offsuit, of course.
Right.
That said, God, I mean, Hikaru's jacket was so awesome. I wouldn't have picked him as the best dressed of the round because Levon is always so sharp.
Right.
But wow, that was really awesome.
You like the jacket.
Yeah, that along with his G6 calculation, that was a very good move of the day.
Bring the calculation,
I mean,
but don't forget the jacket either, huh, Jen?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Final
thoughts, Maurice, as we go into the final day tomorrow.
Well, it's interesting that the designers this year of the Grand Chess Tour decided that 2018 will be the year of Rapid and Blitz, that they would emphasize those events primarily. And we had the Leuven event, we had Paris, we had St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, 3 events and only 1 classical event in the Sinkfield Cup. And now it's come down to that emphasis being the case, that it's going to be decided in Rapid and Blitz. And between 2 sterling players at this format makes perfect sense. I think tomorrow is going to be extremely exciting. The finals, of course, certainly the consolation matchup we'll keep our eye on, but it's going to be some amazing back-and-forth chess between these 2 fantastic players. Absolutely something to watch, a thrill from 2 of the best players in the world. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, Maurice. 2 of the best Rapid and Blitz players in the world playing for the Grand Chess Tour Championship makes perfect sense to me.
Don't miss the party. We'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock in London. We're going to start the show at 7:50 here in St. Louis, and that's 8:50 on the East Coast.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great weekend.